Welcome in, Bears fans, to another episode of It's the Thy and My podcast. And this episode is being simulcasted on both Bears Country Productions as well as BearskiFilm, because I don't know if you could tell, but on the right side of the screen to my left, that away, that's Paul.
What's going on, everybody? Bear down.
How's it going, Paul?
It's going. The pain's almost over. We got one more meaningless game left. Thank God it's a noon game, so it should be done by 3. And then finally we could just wrap this season up, man. I don't know about you, but for me personally, probably one of my most hated Bears seasons. Just truly like disgusted with how this season went. And part of that is, I didn't have the highest expectations for this team. I didn't have them as a playoff team or anything, but I did have some expectations of at least being 500, and just to come nowhere near that. I mean, it's bad, man. You take away that first victory against the Titans, that was that last second pick 6, and you're only at 3 wins. I know a lot of people talk about the Washington game. Hey, if that Hail Mary goes our way, people forget, man, that whole game they kicked our ass. So, like,
caveat to that is that your rookie quarterback did have he has a comeback victory against the Redskins. It's just that Tyreek Stevenson stole that away from him. So
correct.
I do feel like the defense doesn't kind of throw in the towel after seeing how the Stevenson situation was handled. Maybe you're able to squeak out some more wins. I genuinely don't think that this team, best case scenario, is anything more than 9 wins, and that doesn't even look like good enough to get into the playoffs. So
yeah,
not a huge disappointment in the grand scheme, but I agree with you.
Yeah, that's where I had him at. Best case scenario, 9 wins. That was my prediction. And I was hoping for the best case scenario, but I thought worst case was going to be like 7 wins. And we're at 4, man. It's ugly.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have an improvement at the quarterback position as far as passing the ball, but the overall production hasn't been night and day difference because Fields was good with his legs. And our running offense, terrible. Our running back started slow, got better. Offensive line has not really helped him out the best to his ability, I'm sorry. And then just kind of the cohesion with the wide receivers altogether. He's not anywhere near his ceiling. That can kind of transition right into the topic of this video and what I titled the stream and what I wanted to talk to you about, Paul, was, do you think that the Chicago Bears have a culture issue? The reason I ask you that is because there is an article, I'm going to reference Bleacher Nation. I feel like this has made its way around all of the socials, but it was Cole Kmet who had been quoted on saying that there needs to be a shift to the culture for the Chicago Bears as a whole. Ironically, after coming from Ryan Poles' comments about how he feels that the culture is great, all these things obviously led to the first ever firing of a head coach in the season for the Bears. And it has quite simply really only gotten worse. So let me just throw this on the screen real quick, and then we can kind of blab away at that point. So again, referencing Bleacher Nation here, it says, nowadays it seems everyone, including the locker room leaders, has an opinion on what the Chicago Bears should look for in their next head coach. We'll talk about that, of course, don't you guys worry. The most recent player to ask what he'd like to see in the next head coach was tight end Cole Kmet. Kmet, who had a down season in a turbulent offensive system, that has featured 3 different offensive coordinators, 2 play callers, and a rookie quarterback, told Dan Reeder of the Chicago Tribune that Chicago needs a culture shift. So, guys, I don't want to read too much more of this. Obviously, good work from Bleacher Nation, the Tribune. I will link this in the description down below. Heck, I'll even throw it on in the comment section right now so that you guys are able to reference it as needed. But what say you, Paul? Do you think that the Bears need a culture change?
Yeah, I mean, if the question is, do they have a culture problem? Of course. Of course they do. They've had a culture problem for quite some time now. Man, last guy to come in here and have, I think, a good culture was John Fox. Just because he was an established coach in this league, I mean, he left a Super Bowl appearing Broncos team to come and do a rebuild here, a 3-year rebuild and retire. Like, I know the record doesn't say much for John Fox's tenure here, but I respected the hell out of what he did. Just because he knew he was coming in here to do a cleanup job. He knew, his career wasn't going to finish off with a bang here by any means. However, in that process, remember how he saved Jay Cutler and Adam Gase wound up getting a head coaching gig? And when he left, at the end of the day, he had replaced, I think, 52 out of 53 guys. And pretty much the whole locker room was replaced, and he left behind Vic Fangio. You know what I mean? A real defensive coordinator. So like the two coordinators we had under him were successful in those areas. And yeah, it all went downhill, man. Once we got Matt Nagy, and he's like, we just got to have fun. No, it's the NFL, man. This isn't Pee Wee football. Like,
Yeah, I really hated the comments about how Nagy wanted to just, go to the 202 system with the quarterback, all these things. It really wasn't as simple. You're right. I had to check you on that, but it says that Vic Fangio was hired as the D coordinator on 2015. So that is pretty cool. I mean, when you reference the players that had been transformed, and we're looking at about 52 new players under the Vic Fangio, or I'm sorry, the John Fox tenure. That's what Ryan Poles has done. There's only a couple of guys that are left. I'd say about 45 to 48 players are all Ryan Poles guys. So he's done that as well. It just sucks because in that 2018 window under Ryan Pace, Nagy, you had a legitimate Super Bowl chance. You had a really talented roster. The rookie quarterback would have had to exceed expectations, even though he was a second overall pick. We won't talk about that. But I think that team was a lot more competitive than this Bears roster has ever been. I mean, we speculate, we deep dive in this stuff each and every single day. I think that there's loads of talent on this roster if, they reach their potential. But fact of the matter is, this team is not as talented as anything that Ryan Pace has put together, such that the 2018 team.
Right. And you could argue that 2018 window was, partially due to the fact that John Fox was here. Like that defense and Vic Fangio really kind of helped carry that 2018 season in a lot of different ways. And so you could credit that to, John Fox being there before and setting all that up. It just, it didn't happen while he was there. Kind of like the 49ers too. I remember Mike Singletary's last year. I was like, oh, the 49ers are going to be good. And they weren't. They wound up getting like 3 or 4 wins that year. Next year, Harbaugh takes over and boom, they're clicking. Their defense is good. But you could tell the pieces were all there and it was all ready to click. It just, for some reason, I'm always a little, a year too early with that stuff. But yeah, the 2018 season was interesting. And, just in a telescope view, like Mitch Trubisky, even at the end of that playoff game, let us down and put us in field goal range. The true failure was in week 5 against Miami that year. I think it was week 5 when, Cody Parkey double doinks for like the second game. Or not double doinks, but doinks went off the field goal post. And
so there was also a game. There was a game against the Lions at home where Parkey did, if you're into soccer at all, it's called a perfect hat trick. A hat trick is where you score 3 goals. A perfect hat trick is where you score with your left foot, your right foot, and a header. Cody Parkey hit the left post, the right post, and the crossbar of the field goal, I'm pretty sure. So it was ironic that season came to an end after that kind of precursor. Really weird stuff.
Right then and there, you should have been looking for a new kicker.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obvious. It was obvious, and they ignored it. And they let them bite them in the ass, and then they went into the next offseason saying all we need is a kicker. And then, listen, 1 year to evaluate a quarterback is just not enough. You need 3 years to really truly get a good idea of who a quarterback is and what a quarterback can do. I mean, I reference this all the time. Nick Foles had a season where he had 28 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Okay, so I mean,
and that was with the Eagles.
Yeah, that was early on in his career. The first year he didn't start the full year, but I think he started like 14 games or something that year. And he had 28 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Meanwhile, Peyton Manning's rookie year, Peyton Manning had 28 interceptions. But, over the course of time, over the course of 3 years, Nick Foles showed you exactly who he was, and Peyton Manning showed you exactly who he was. You need a little bit more time than just 1 year to really get an idea. And in that first year, I thought, there were a lot of issues with Trubisky, but there were a lot of positive things. It's just as time went on and that defense got worse and that offense had to take over more, that's when you saw these failures starting to, come to light, so to speak. But yeah, that 2018 season, it's funny because we all thought our window was opening, but no, it opened and it shut all the same.
Well,
You know, all in one
the
year.
problem with that 2018-2019 roster was that King Pace, not King Poles, but King Pace, was the master at trading up. So he was mortgaging the future for the present. And in the moment, it felt so good. You beat the Packers at home. You get that divisional championship. You get a home playoff game. Sky was the limit, man. Chad Speaker had said it. He said, under the circumstances, he thinks that we go to the Super Bowl. Because if we would have won that game, I think we had to have then gone to the New Orleans Saints. And after that, the team that we would have had to play in the conference game was not that good.
It was
And then
very
finally,
winnable. Very
yeah,
winnable.
the Super Bowl would have been against the Patriots, but the Patriots that year felt like it was a bit of a down year. They barely squeaked it out against the Rams, I believe. All that to say, I do think that overall there is a culture problem in the sense that your co-host on the BearskiFilm channel, Daveski, he likes to use a term that I've really come to start to like. It's called the inmates running the asylum. I'm hearing a lot of Jalen Johnson come out and say bad things. Excuse me. I hear a lot of Cole Kmet saying, "Hey, we've got to get a culture change," things like this. I'm not really too accustomed to hearing that from Chicago Bears teams. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit more in tune to it now because I'm doing this podcasting thing, once a week, all this good stuff. So I'm a bit more in tune to it in that sense, but it does feel weird. So what I'd like to, just outside of like a culture change, the only Pro Bowler that the Chicago Bears currently have is Jalen Johnson. And Jalen Johnson was not drafted by our general manager. Some of our other better players, Cole Kmet, Tevin Jenkins, when healthy and at his peak, these are players that were not drafted by Ryan Poles. So I need the Bears, I need Ryan Poles, whoever the general manager is, just draft a Pro Bowler. I think that can be Roma Dunze, and we can talk about that if you want. I think that could be Caleb Williams. But it's not happening just yet. And I need this team to acquire some more deep talent to surround what I think is the best quarterback the Bears have ever had and really kind of start knocking on the door of the playoffs and beyond.
It's really interesting. I was thinking about this the other day just to myself, like outside of Caleb Williams, because just about anybody who's got that pick makes that pick, right? Outside of Caleb Williams, who are like the top 3 best players that he's drafted?
That he's drafted. So Kyler Gordon, I don't know if Kyler Gordon had an injury problem or an injury designation or missed time due to an injury this year. I think he did.
That was the first name that came to my head.
When you think of nickel defenders in the NFL, Kyle Hamilton no longer applies because he has been switched to safety, to my understanding. He's a Pro Bowler at safety. So we're talking about Kenny Moore on the Colts, which is ironic because I'm pretty sure he was developed and responsible of Matt Eberflus as well. And then you've got, I think it's Marlon Humphrey. He's a Pro Bowler for the Ravens as well, which is ironic. But outside of those names, there's no one better than Kyler Gordon. He's fantastic. And he doesn't just defend the pass. He's essentially a linebacker. He's like your modern-day Hunter Hillenmeyer in this 4-3 scheme because he's on the field more than Jack Sanborn, of course.
Now, when you pay him, is he still like, because the nickel position is, it's only utilized
not
so
a top
often.
flight outside corner position,
right? When you pay him, you're gonna have to pay him like a number 1 or number 2 corner.
No, I think what you'll do is you'll make him the highest paid nickel defender in NFL history, which doesn't mean he'd even be a top 5 paid cornerback in the NFL. He'll come back and he'll be a good player. And if he outperforms it, let's say, God forbid, Tyreek Stevenson and Terrell Smith don't work out, and he's forced to play outside because, out of necessity. If at that point he's going to ask to either be traded or you're going to have to give him a new contract, and that's fine. But given the circumstances, he'll be retained and he'll be a really good player for the Bears because he already is.
That's one.
Other players that you've drafted, you're not going to like this because I think that you're
very
negative on the offensive line. Darnell Wright's a good player. He's a really good player. When he played his rookie season next to Tevin Jenkins, he had flashed all-pro potential. I'll say Pro Bowl, not all-pro. I'm sorry. But
Darnell Wright is a piece for sure. He's somebody that can definitely be a part of a good offensive line. I agree there. But I mean, pick 10, right? So that's your top 10.
Yeah. He was picked 10 in addition to a trade down as well. So you maneuvered down. Opportunity cost, of course, is the murderer himself, Jalen Carter. But outside of that, I mean, he's a really good player. Now we're getting into the weeds as far as Jaquan Brisker, good player when healthy, but not healthy.
Rome, maybe.
Rome is very talented. We just haven't seen anything close to his potential, and I don't want to get into
And
that
it's only
argument with you
been
just
one
yet.
year. Yeah, it's only been 1 year too, so you don't know. So that's what I mean. Like outside of that, it's like really my mind kind of goes to like Braxton Jones.
Yeah, that's going to be another one where he's I have a very specific topic, a question I want to ask you regarding him in a second. But not only just as a starting caliber left tackle, right? Like you drafted a starting left tackle. That's a good starting point. He was a 5th-round pick in a trade down. So you traded away Khalil Shakir for Braxton Jones and I think a 6th. I can't remember who the player was. I've got a really nice chart. I don't know if I want to show it on the screen because it's
But
not
I mean,
my work.
my point of that is that's it. Then you have Tyreek Stevenson, a 2nd-round pick who's not doing well. You mentioned Jaquan Brisker. That's a good name. That's still like up in the air average. Javon Dexter, I mean, I guess there's still some like there, but then you have, your 3rd-round picks are all busts. Velus Jones is a bust. Whatchamacallit, Amagaji has not panned out to expectations. Who was our other 3rd-round pick? Zach Pickens has not done very much.
No, I want to hammer that point home. Zach Pickens was the 1st pick of the 3rd round. I think that Zach Pickens was a worse move than trading for Chase Claypool. Like, that was a bad draft pick, a terrible draft pick.
You should have taken like a guard at that point. You don't find
No,
defensive tackles that late.
we had a really bad defensive line going into that draft. I think that we had Dominique Robinson play 75-80% of our snaps. That was the year where we brought in Trevis Gibson and he didn't make the team. Like, we had a terrible defensive line.
Yeah.
And there's an obvious tendency with Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles, when you had the worst secondary in the NFL, draft 2 defensive backs essentially back to back. Worst defensive line in the NFL potentially. Not only do you draft Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens, then you trade for Montez Sweat. He likes to bring these guys in waves. That's why I think that this year we're going to see multiple offensive linemen drafted. But I digress.
Yeah, can I share something with you? And this is from last year that I have this.
Take your time, Paul, getting that up on the screen. I'm going to say hello to chat because chat has been fantastic and we haven't even acknowledged their existence. So, Mr. Plank, hello to you, sir. Chad Spieger, it was good interacting with you on Twitter, by the way, Chad. Nice to see you in here. Mr. Mayhem, Prometheus, over from the Bearski side as well. Thank you, Prometheus. I appreciate that. Flex Diggs had your comment on screen. How's it going, buddy? The one and only Scottish Bear. Hope you're well, sir. Amphiarius. Who's this Mr. Shorty guy? Paul, do you know who this is on the screen?
I don't know. He seems insane, though. He may need to be...
yeah, I might have to time him out from his own channel. I mean, how's it going, Shorty?
What's up, man? Love you, Shorty.
I feel like I've got everyone. No, Mr. Daniel Jeffries. How's it going to you, sir?
In a
Pipeline
no homo
J.
way.
Hello. Oh, interesting. Very
no
interesting.
Homo way. No homo way, Shorty.
Mr. Cliff Victoria, the member of BCP, by the way. How's it going, Cliff? Did I get everyone? Patty L. Is it Patty Lara? I believe it is. But how's it going, Patty? All right. So what are we looking
Karl,
at here? You want to throw all of them?
No, one at a time. So you could do slide 2 defensive ends first. Hey, GA2K, good evening as well. So this is just something I put together last year, like I think during the offseason last year, where it's just like I took some of the top defensive ends, or I don't know if I did it by contract wise or by just stat wise or whatever, but you could see, look at this, just some big names here. 1st round pick 13, 2nd round pick 37, 1st round pick 17, 1st round pick 3, 1st round pick 31, 1st round pick 17, 1st round pick 17. I mean, the only defensive end that's really like a later, this is defensive tackles you have loaded. My bad. But same thing with defensive ends.
Here's our ends.
Yeah, and same thing with the ends and tackles. It's a similar story. Like, look at Max Crosby. He's the only 4th round pick. Other than that, they're all 1st rounders.
Yeah, let me just give you some insight if I was to do this graphic or kind of this logic exercise, okay? I take 0 stock into the Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. There was a point in time where the Pittsburgh Steelers' 2nd cornerback, he used to play for the Panthers. He was acquired in a trade with Deontay Thompson, I believe. He had higher voting than Jalen Johnson. If it was just the fans, Jalen Johnson would have never sniffed it because our fan base attacks each other like a virus. And then the teams that are winning, they'll always prop their own teams. So I take 0 stock into the Pro Bowl. I would kind of compile this as the All-Pros. Take the All-Pros of the last 5 years, get their names up there and what pick they are. That'll tell you what it is. But if you're insinuating that your defensive linemen's, your good ones, are acquired towards the first top end of the draft, I totally agree with you. And you're
Yep.
correct.
First round, some second round guys. Look at centers. Sixth round, first round, sixth round, fifth round, second round. And so, I mean, those are just and like I said, Jason Kelsey's up there because this was at the start of
Exactly.
last year. It's a
No,
little bit old.
you're totally
And
right.
then
Yeah.
look at the wide receivers, man. You got some guys out there. Tyreek Hill, fifth round. AJ Brown, second round. Amon-Ra St. Brown, fourth round. Puka
Now,
Nacua,
caveat. There's a really high discrepancy. I'll fight for Puka Nacua, I guess, but it's Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and everyone else. So Jamar Chase, top 5 pick. Why is Justin Jefferson number 22? Because his teammate went 5th overall.
Right. And so, it's crazy, but like look at Devontae Adams. At the end of the day,
We talked about him.
yes, and this is what you have to do. And Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill had the same thing where it's like they did really well on their teams, and a lot of it can be attributed to the quarterback. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Tyreek Hill. He went to Miami and put up even more yardage. You know what I mean? However, when it came time to pay him, it's not worth it if you have the quarterback. It's really hard to put that much money on one side of the football, and so you trade him away. Dude, they got 2 first-round picks for Devontae Adams, right? And so that's a really good way to play the draft capital game. What the Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill, the draft capital they got back for him is awesome. Now, I was kind of worried with Justin Jefferson when they signed him, and I was like, man, because for a wide receiver to carry a team, very unusual, typically very hard. He may be an outlier. I mean, he may truly be an outlier, and so may Jamar Chase. I still believe in Joe Burrow. I still think Joe Burrow can get a lot of production even without Jamar Chase, but Jamar Chase has not disappointed. So I agree with you, Ty. It's like those two guys and kind of everybody else, because at the end of the day, like what's Tyreek Hill doing on the Dolphins right now?
Yeah, I mean it's not fair to him because his quarterback has a perpetual brain injury. Their offensive line, I don't think, is the best.
It's not fair to Justin Jefferson either. You didn't see him skip a beat.
Right, totally understandable. But I think that you were able to scheme him away. So like Bill Belichick was famous, or I think I heard Tom Brady say this about the Patriots, right? But when you go against a team, you want to take away the best thing that they're best at. And that's obviously for the Dolphins, throwing the ball down the field to Tyreek Hill. He almost had 2,000 yards last year.
And I was kind of going to get on that point with you when you talked about Randy Moss. It's so sad because Randy Moss does not have a Super Bowl ring. That year with the Patriots, where they went perfect except for the Super Bowl, and they lost to the 6th seed Giants. It's because the Patriots love to be balanced or they used to. I'm talking about the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady era. They love to be balanced and they love to be multidimensional, where they could, do different things against different teams. They're almost more willing to attack your weaknesses rather than just establish their strengths, right? And they're going to execute. So that's the core part of this. It's do your job, but they're going to put you in position to do your job and to do it really well. When they had Randy Moss on there, it was a very offensive heavy season. I mean, 50 touchdowns from Brady, right? And so you become one-dimensional in a way. You take some of that balance away, and now look, a good pass rush kicks your ass, and that's the kryptonite to that type of game plan, right? So, as much success as they had, at the end of the day, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but he did with Julian Edelman, who was a 7th-round pick.
That's something too. Like in my point regarding the Bears needing just more, I call it Pro Bowl, All Pro talent. You're hitting in the end of the draft, in my opinion. You're getting some nice value, but you're not getting these, oh my God, superstars anywhere in the draft. Now, like I said, Caleb Williams could become that. Roma Dunze hopefully will become that, but it's not happening just yet, and I need to see a little bit more.
So I brought these slides up with just the conversation of Zach Pickens. Like you said, first pick in the 3rd round. You were probably, just due to draft history and the way, you can hit on some of these guys, you're probably better off taking a shot at a center. You still needed that
higher in the draft, or
no, instead of Zach Pickens.
Oh, in the moment, that was a valid argument. I can't remember if the player's name was Joe Tippmann or what it was, but there was definitely the idea of, hey, do we take a center here or not? And they obviously chose to go with Zach Pickens, and like I have well documented, I think that was a monster of a mistake. So, in the breadth and the theme of what we're talking about right now, and the overall theme of the episode, as far as that being if the Bears have a culture problem, what would you do as far as upgrading this roster? So, a lot of people will tell you that Braxton Jones is not the answer at left tackle. He's got a weak base. He only does well against poor opponents, yada, yada, yada. If it was up to you, Paul, for the Chicago Bears, would you draft a left tackle first or a defensive tackle first? Not an edge rusher, not a defensive end, but a defensive tackle versus upgrading Braxton Jones at left tackle.
Forget, is it Braxton Jones' contract year? Do you have to pay him this year?
No, he is under contract for this upcoming
One more
season,
year?
to my understanding. Yep.
Listen, damn it, like you put too much stock into the offense. It's a number 1 overall pick quarterback. You can't have him go out in there and die. As much as I want to say defensive tackle, because it's like Braxton Jones, for all his faults and everything, you said it, drafted in the 5th round. For what you expected of him, for the expectations, you've gotten way more than that already. He can be a Band-Aid, even for 1 more year. You still need way better center play. You still need guard help. It's not like there aren't other holes on the offensive line. If you had some other pieces set and that was, like one of the main faults, okay. So that's what makes me lean towards defensive tackle. But then I look at this season, it's like, dude, 60 plus sacks, almost 70. You can't have that. So you drastically have to change the offensive line. And to do that, you're going to have to address it in multiple ways. You're going to have to address it through the draft. You're going to have to address it through free agency. And, these left tackles, same thing as defensive tackles and defensive ends, they're round 1 guys. You don't find those guys that late. Like, that's why Braxton Jones is a diamond in the rough, because for what he gave you and where he was drafted, it's not typical, man. You don't find these guys in the 5th round like that.
Yeah. There's so many good things that you just said, and I kind of want to make sure that everyone's opinion in the chat is well voiced as well. So, J2K's comment here regarding fixing the interior with free agency, Braxton will be serviceable in his last year. Kind of feels like exactly what Paulie is saying, right? If you want to improve the offensive line, which all of us know that it needs to happen, right? You can't get 5, or if we're all in agreement that your right tackle, Darnell Wright's good, you can't bring in 4 new starters and have them all be rookies or something insane like that, right? There has to be just the tiniest bit of continuity, okay? Tevin Jenkins is a guard in the NFL who has flashed all-pro potential. He is going to get his bag. I don't care what you tell me. Whether it's going to be a 10-year contract with $10 million incentives or a $15 million contract with $5 million incentives, Tevin Jenkins is going to get paid money, and the Bears cannot afford to do that because he cannot stay on the goddamn football field. So if you're going to replace your left guard, God knows that you need a new right guard. Many will tell you that Coleman Shelton isn't the answer at center. You got to pick someone to keep. And in my opinion, you can't just get rid of Braxton Jones for nothing, okay? Braxton Jones is a serviceable left tackle. He's also going to be coming off of an injury now. This is the prime time to say, okay, let's just use Braxton Jones' final year of his rookie contract to see what we can get out of him, and we'll go from there. Whether that's signing him to extension, trading him, or anything else in between, I don't know what would be in between. I think that that's the best, smartest option. I had a little write-up. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you can see my Twitter handle down there underneath my name in the orange. I had shared this with Aldo, because Aldo said, Aldo Gandia of the Barroom Network, he had tweeted out saying, hey, rank these positions in order of need for the Bears. And it was defensive tackle, left tackle, and every other position in the NFL. So my critical high-level analysis of this, quote-unquote, was that when you upgrade Braxton Jones, you are wasting a top 10 pick on a left tackle that is a starter for a 5th round. That's the value in and of itself. So you're just going to be pissing away that 5th round pick rather for nothing. You'll have arguably a better left tackle. I also want to put this on the screen. Mr. J2K had said that we're stuck with Braxton because the draft doesn't have any top-tier left tackles. I'm not convinced that the left tackle out of Texas is any better or worse than Braxton Jones. I do feel that Will Campbell, I believe, the left tackle, slash interior offensive lineman of LSU. I don't think that he's an upgrade to Braxton Jones. I'll be very honest with you. So that said, the best left tackles and the best tackles in the NFL are taken essentially in the top 10. But I don't know if that kid from Texas is any good, and I don't know if it'd be worth the upgrade. But if you spend a top 10 pick, hopefully, God willing, on a Mason Graham, a defensive tackle for your roster, okay? You're not pissing away your second round investment in Gervon Dexter. You're making that investment better because he'll be in rotation. He'll be playing in addition to him on the field. They'll be rotating. Drafting a left tackle would be a mistake when you're going to be passing up on a starting defensive tackle, which I think you can find.
If you can wait one more year to do it,
yeah.
If you could keep Braxton Jones here for one more year, it might be worth it because you can address center and guard later in the rounds. Third,
Yes.
fourth, fifth round, you can get center, you can get guard. If you get a defensive tackle early on, you see what I'm saying? So it's much more of a realistic, doable plan to come at it that way rather than get a left tackle and then what? Because you're not.
Yeah, like I said,
you know
can recoup. Let's say you recoup assets for Braxton Jones. That ship has sailed, though, because as Mr. Flex Diggs is saying, he didn't snap his leg, it was his ankle, but same difference, right? We're talking about a player who has a weak base, now has a broken ankle. That could be a problem, and you're not going to be able to even get your 5th-round pick back for Braxton Jones anymore. If you want to send Braxton Jones away for a 7th-round pick, draft a left tackle, and still have an issue at defensive tackle, that would be malpractice. I think you have to prioritize a defensive tackle to a left tackle in this scenario altogether.
And that's why it's nothing against Rome, Karl. It's not like I have a personal vendetta against Rome. I actually think Rome is a good wide receiver. Has had an adequate rookie year. I think he's a great character, which you need to put that into consideration too. He doesn't seem like a guy that's going to give you problems off the field and whatnot. But just for pure draft strategy wise, and I know hindsight's 2020. You could do this every year. You could do it with every team too, right? What you should have done, like, look at this defensive tackle rookie on the Rams. What's his name? Braden Fisk?
There's Braden Fisk and Jared Verse.
And Jared Verse. And
Jared Verse is the outside name. Braden Fisk, I believe, is on the inside.
Yeah, and Braden Fisk has 8 sacks. 8 sacks on the year. And he was, what, a mid-second round pick? You could have, in theory, you could have traded back. If you really wanted that wide receiver, you could have gotten Brian Thomas Jr. and Braden Fisk. Now, like I said, hindsight's 2020. You could do this with every draft, with every team. So it's unfair to sit there and go through and say you could have, you should have, whatever. But I mean, I was on at least that idea. I didn't have Fisk on my radar at all. But I'm also, that's why I said I'm not pretending I'm the smartest guy in the room. It's their job to find these guys.
You're preaching to the choir. Look it. I said, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Me and Nick, the ghost that is Nick, you can see we took Caleb and we traded down for Jared Verse.
100%.
Yeah, we were all over that.
That was the way to go. And especially with the way the draft shook out, you didn't have one defensive player taken until pick 16. So you could have trapped back, multiple spots and had your pick of the litter at defense. And I said, you can't convince me that there isn't going to be a stud out there. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't do this for a full-time job like they do. I don't have a scouting department going out there and scouting these guys like they do. But so that's on them to figure out who it's going to be. But you can't tell me there isn't somebody. And so for me, it's just like that move at pick 9. It's they made it. I don't completely disagree with ever taking a wide receiver at that point, but I believe you really have to be in position to do so. And I don't think we were anywhere in position to be sitting there kind of gambling with the wide receiver number 3 at the end of the day at that high when we have so many obvious holes that we got to fill still.
So the caveat to that would be, imagine what this wide receiver room looks like without Rome Odunze, and then Keenan Allen walks after this year. You've got DJ Moore, who is, again, maybe potentially a part of this culture problem that we're talking about. He seems to be a little bit hobbled. I'm hoping that his self-proclaimed vacation time is able to fix that. And then outside of that, you've got what? Tyler Scott, special teams ace, can't make his name on the field for a wide receiver. You've got Colin Johnson. Now we're talking about, okay, you've got this fantastic quarterback. you've pumped assets and maybe into the offensive line by that point, after this draft, but you still don't have a wide receiver for Caleb. So I think that drafting Rome was correct. Top 10 pick. He could have been considered the best. There was a tiny bit of chatter of him being the best receiver in the draft. Never was truth. It was always Malik Neighbors, in my opinion. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably more talented than Rome, right? So, is a special circumstance. Would be the first receiver selected in this year's draft, in my opinion. Last 5 years, I think Rome Odunze is the first wide receiver selected. I think that they got true value at taking Rome at 9.
And like I said, it's nothing against Rome. Rome may wind up being a good player and everything like that. The issue I have with it is you already gambled on the offense at pick 1, right? Like we talked about Devontae Adams, and like Aaron Rodgers made Devontae Adams. Really did. You know what I mean? And, if you're going to have a good quarterback, he's going to be able to take wide receivers and elevate them. And I saw some pretty early production with DeAndre Carter that didn't look bad.
He seemed to be able to fit in. Yeah,
we had Tyler Scott just missing all year. So you can't tell me that Rome Odunze's hole wasn't unfillable by any means. You could have done some different things to try and get somebody. Maybe you wouldn't have gotten as much production, but at the end of the day, like it was a down year for DJ Moore. It was a down year for Keenan Allen. Maybe those guys have a little bit of an uptick. You know what I mean? Maybe it all evens out somehow. I think the idea when we got Rome was like, man, we got 3,000-yard wide receivers. Who's going to get to 1,000 yards first? Go. Oh, Cole Kmet, 1,000 yards. There's our 4,000 right there without even throwing it to the running back. It's like, that's just so unrealistic.
Thank you, Shane Waldron.
So unrealistic, man.
Paul, I wanted to bring this up just real quick. I'm looking at these names. There's some really good players drafted at the top of the draft, towards the end of the draft. That A.J. Brown guy, who drafted him?
That would be the Tennessee Titans.
But which man did it?
The head coach at the time was Vrabel.
Correct. Mike Vrabel.
He's
got a good track record. Did
you see the video of how pissed he was when they traded him away?
No, but I've definitely heard that story, and that was one of the reasons why he's no longer, A, with the Titans, and B, why we're hearing essentially squabbles from his camp about how he's either going to need his own general manager or at the very least be okay with ownership and know that he has the ability to have some say on the roster.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to deal with it again either if I was him. Dude, he looked like he wanted to beat that guy's ass. And at the end of the day, you look at what has A.J. Brown done since.
Yeah,
had a lot of success. There's valid reason to be pissed at getting rid of him. And you see why. Because that was a legit piece for them.
Oh my goodness, this is such a funny comment from Crimson. Matt Eberflus may be gone, but his patented quits principle lives on. That's a great comment, man. I agree. Like I said, I think that Eberflus as a whole wasn't the best hire. Obviously, as a Bears fan, I bought into him, and he had promise going into the start of the season, in my opinion. I definitely feel like I had discussions on the Bears Country podcast about how he would be. There's no chance he'd ever get fired, something of that nature, but we saw something that I've never seen from a head coach. I mean, just to have repeated mistake after mistake, mishandling of timeouts and end-of-game situations. And it's ironic. We're talking about the quits principle living on. How about Thomas Brown? Just as fucking bad at the end of the game. Was it against the Lions? No, it was when it mattered. It was against the Seahawks. Just total incompetence. It's unfair to him. We're talking about on the Bears Country podcast about how maybe you go after a Josh McCown. Maybe Josh McCown is your favorite head coach, right? It would be such a disservice to hire someone who's never been an offensive coordinator in the NFL to say, hey, be our head coach, save our franchise. That's just, it's not going to work.
No, and so what you have to do is you have to put the shoe on the other foot as well. And, like I asked Shorty why he's got that opinion. And all he could say is, well, because I know he's a good head coach and I know that this will happen and I know that this will. And okay, so you have your opinion and you have your faith and your confidence in it. But you still have to entertain the fact that, like, what happens if it doesn't work? And the backlash you'd get, you know what I mean? It would be astronomical. I'm already pissed because, David said something on our show the other day, and I hate him for it, but he may be. Yeah, I hate him for a lot of reasons. I love him too, but I hate him for this one because it might be true. It might be true. He said the next 3 to 5 years may be some of the worst years we've had in recent times as Bears fans. Whereas, like at the beginning of the year last year, I said, "Is this the best team Caleb's going to play on?" And we're like, "No, next year should be because we still have a good amount of draft capital, and it's not all these contracts are coming into play yet." But at the end of this year now, looking forward and saying that, and his theory behind it is, well, look at the rest of this division and how good it is. Who's getting worse here, man? Minnesota, Detroit.
The Lions are primed to get worse. I
Okay,
mean, you've got
potentially.
you've got a quarterback just scraping the ceiling.
Sure.
He's at the
So then,
top of his game.
so
You're going to lose your offensive coordinator, potentially your defensive coordinator as well. The Vikings also really punching above their weight, in my opinion. Nobody mocked this team to be as good as they are, and it's just all clicking, right? You've got a fantastic head coach, and you've got this incredible score in one score games, this incredible record. They're just something's got to break there. I think that this is a
I've
bit
been
of an
waiting for it to
anomaly.
break all year, man, and it just hasn't.
We talked about it. There was writing on the wall. I mean, it felt like it could happen at any point, but it just hasn't yet. But there's a
They
chance the Vikings are one and done in the playoffs, especially if they lose tomorrow against the Lions. The Lions are the clear-cut Super Bowl favorite, in my opinion. They've just got everything going. They're like a wave, right? But they're so primed to lose so much. I don't know, man.
and and then the Packers are the youngest team in the league.
Right, but
Okay, so
if
let's
you
say
look at the Packers' schedule this year, they've played some dog shit teams, and then they almost lost to a broken Chicago team. The best special teams coordinator in the NFL had to identify tendency and block a kick to win a fucking game against the lowly Bears. I'm not sold on the shitty Packers whatsoever.
J2K's got the comment right there. People have been waiting for the Vikings to break for 3 years. I have been waiting for the Vikings to break for 3 years. I've been preaching it. I'm wrong. Like it comes to a point where it's just if it's not happening, this is reality. The reality is they're doing really well over there. And so it's a lot harder to make the case for either of those three teams going down than it is for us going up. Like that's the harder case to argue that we're going to get so much better. And like say the Lions do fall off a cliff, then what? We're third in a division because this division is damn tough, and these other teams are for real. And so I can see. Listen, so like when David said it, as I've thought about it more and more, I can see why he's making that point, and why I'm biting my lip, going, "Man, I'm going to hate him if he's right. I really am. If the next 3 years suck a lot and are very tough, I'm going to really hate him." And that's where I'm going to circle it back to the name you brought up.
The exact comment is the worst years of the Bears in recent memory. The John Fox era was terrible. And I agree with you in your evaluation of John Fox
Record
laying the
was.
bedrock. But as far as the brand of football, I was so fucking uninspired to watch the Chicago Bears. Maybe that was just my life at that point. But oh my God, the John Fox era football quality, awful.
But it's weird because that was a real rebuild. It took 3 years, and even after you left, you saw it click in. What we went
Ryan Poles, Ryan Poles is also in that rebuild.
still.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Packers are the youngest team. They rebuilt without saying rebuild. Like it's amazing. And so it's tough, man. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow. We're in a very tough division. A lot's got to go right, and that's where I'm going to circle it back to the name you brought up, Mike Vrabel. That's why I'm so set on Mike Vrabel. And like the pushback I get is like, oh well, so what? You want to be 9-8? You want to be 500? And it's just like, yeah, we all know it. That's the floor for him. He's gonna be 500, and then that gives you an opportunity. Listen, I'm more confident in him getting this culture fixed than all these other coaches, in my opinion. A lot of these other guys are truly gambles. I feel like he comes with that whole philosophy and established structure that I truly think we are desperate right now. I don't want to steal Dave's thunder because I think he was going to use this on our show on Monday, but I don't care. He called me today and he brought up a great point. A great point. He said, "Do you know who the Chargers were ready to hire before Jim Harbaugh said, "I'll take that job"?
It's probably Vrabel.
They had Vrabel lined up. So because that's the type of change you need, and Vrabel is not anywhere near as good as Jim Harbaugh. But man, even if he's 80% of that, like I'll take that right now. That's what we need. And if it,
What was I going to
yeah,
say?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Mike Tomlin. Tomlin is a great head coach, and I don't want anyone to get this wrong, right? I have seen his Steelers get one and done like a Las Vegas strip hooker. Like it's just the most worthless thing. If you're gonna go
Great
10
analogy.
if
I
you're
love that.
10-3 and you're gonna get one and done every year, sure he's won some Super Bowls, but that was with Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, Mike Tomlin's a good head coach. Is he really going to take the Bears to the top of the NFC immediately? And we're talking about a culture change, which maybe that's what we need. Tomlin would be great at that, technically. But we're also talking about how our current player pool is, the inmates running the asylum. Like, there's going to be a lot of turnover. We have been rebuilding for the last 3 years, and there could be another 3-year rebuild if Tomlin was to be given the keys, and that scares me.
So the interesting part about that is you mentioned you think the Vikings might be one and done this year. I actually have more faith in the Vikings this year than I did last year. Last year with Kirk Cousins, I knew they were going to be one and done, and I laughed when his last play of the playoff game was on 4th and 8 was a little 4-yard up and out to the tight end, hoping that he would break a tackle to get a first down.
He talked about that in the quarterback series on Netflix, and it was the correct choice. I mean, when you look at the options in that moment, there was nothing.
I'd toss it up to Justin Jefferson. I don't care if he's triple coverage.
I think he was tripled, ironically. But
I don't care. In that moment, that's what I'm going to try and do, and I would rather die on that hill than doing schematically the right choice. That's just got just as shitty of a chance at succeeding. But at the end of the day, I knew they were going to be one and done because Kirk Cousins.
Sure.
Because that was the guy, you know what I mean? I think what they have going on right now with Darnold is way more potent than what they had going on with Kirk Cousins. I believe Darnold could get it done. And so, like, I mean, they might be, one and out, but I don't think it's like a for sure thing. I mean, to me, they're an interesting team. I mean, dude, the fact that they've gone first.
I have done a little bit of homework on this because my girlfriend is a Vikings fan, and I'm not going to root against the Vikings in front of her. That'd be disrespectful. And I would sure as hell like to see the Vikings win anything before these Lions fans. Shout out to Don Burr in chat. That's fine by me. But the Vikings, I will never accept them as being worth a damn until they make a fucking meaningful kick in the playoffs. They missed a 25-yard field goal on that cold day in the Minnesota Stadium. They had one of the best teams ever in the late 1990s, I believe, with Moss, and missed that field goal against the Falcons. Like, make a fucking field goal, then we'll talk. I'm not scared of the Vikings right now.
Yeah, I mean, but who are we to talk, Thigh? You know what? It was funny. I watched.
If we're talking field goals, we've got a damn good playoff field goal kicker in Robbie Gould. So
other than Cody Parkey, I watched that Minnesota Packers game at the very start of it, where they're like this rivalry, this and that. I'm just like, oh my god, it's a better rivalry than what we have with them. At least they put up a fight. So it's sad. And like with the Vrabel thing, it's like people are like, oh, 500, 500, 500. You realize we've had one winning season in the last 12 years?
I believe it. We're talking about 2018, right?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I had this comment from James on the screen. I mean, ever since Lovey, we've been rebuilding. We had a very hyper-competitive team with Trestman. No, I'm sorry, not Trestman. It was...
Trestman had a projected top 5 offense.
Projected. I mean, it was the best offense in Chicago Bears history.
But they went all in. They made some bad financial moves.
Yeah, because they held on to the defense, I believe, too.
Correct.
Like some of the names on there. So
the right choice would have been to rebuild. Instead, they tried to drag it out.
2018, we had a very hyper-competitive roster, is all my point here, James, was. So we've had our short, small, moments. but nothing concrete. I feel like I cut you off, Paulie.
No. Go ahead. I don't know if you got. Okay, so
Oh,
what I'm saying with
go ahead.
Vrabel, it's like I can't scoff at 500 because like who are we to talk if we've only had one winning season in 12 years? Like, listen, I told you my expectations every year, the way my philosophy is, and my football thoughts, it's always geared towards winning a Super Bowl. It is Super Bowl or bust every year. I'm not an idiot though. I know it takes steps to get there. You got to at least be competitive, or if not, then you're going to get what we've had, which is maybe a spike here and there. But that window's going to open and shut as fast as it
Yeah,
opens.
and that's why
As fast as it shuts.
that's part of the analysis of Ryan Poles, right? Ryan Poles had to take it down to the studs. He did have to have Dominique Robinson, who was not even a defensive end when drafted, or he had just converted. He had him play meaningful snaps for an entire year. That's why I didn't blame Matt Eberflus for the 2-win season, the 1-win season, whatever it was, because he had to tear it down to the studs because of Ryan Pace. Ryan Pace just gambled everything. He put everything on red. And he won it, but then he blew that bag very fast. That roster needed to get blown up, and that's where we're at. We're coming out of that cycle. In my opinion, we finally have the quarterback. It's now just about what can you put around him. But now we've got to get a new head coach, and does that align with the GM? It's kind of a little bit of a tumultuous time.
So at the end of the day, the coaches don't play the game. The players play the game. You mentioned Mike Tomlin. Well, who was his quarterback?
Obviously, he started with Roethlisberger.
Yeah,
he
did.
inherited
Like,
Roethlisberger.
Kenny Pickett? Who was the guy who
He drafted Kenny Pickett.
Who has like a corner of his head missing from the helmet hit?
Mason Rudolph.
Like this is what we're talking about. So when it came time to Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, it's part of the reason why I was like, listen, Justin's better off sitting and getting right and utilize him as a weapon. You have a quarterback here that's been there, done that, and had success. Ride it out with that guy if you can. If it works and you have success, you have way more of a chance in the playoffs at having success with that guy. You know what I mean? And
how sweet, Paulie, would it be? Because there's 3 sets of fans I'm going to talk about. There's Bears fans.
One more.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So like, who was Mike Vrabel's quarterback? Ryan Tannehill. He was on his second team there.
He had to acquire him. Did Vrabel draft Mariota? I can't remember. I'll have to do some triangulation here, but continue your point. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Caleb Williams is an asset here. So if you get a coach like Mike Vrabel to come in here and like, I feel a lot of the failures on defense we've had were not due to lack of talent. It was due to lack of effort. And the failures on offense, same thing. Like, these guys are dealing with plays not coming in on time. In week 3, you had Caleb Williams chewing Shane Waldron out, running to the sideline because the play did not come in half the time. He's a rookie. He shouldn't be setting the standard for that stuff. That stuff should be coming, like, that stuff should be hammered out, nailed out, period. And so that's what I want. I want that established floor, because I do think there's still enough talent here, especially with Caleb Williams leading the way, to where I don't want to waste this or gamble this. Let's get this thing to a respectable level, and then the way we're going to win games is with the talent, man. Just put them in the right position at least, and at least have that box checked off. And so, I know a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions on it. I just feel like that's the safest way to go. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't want to keep playing this game with like these guys who are up and coming and have a shot, but this is going to be the downfall of it all. Just like Ryan Poles glued himself to Matt Eberflus and said, no, he's our coach, we're not even interviewing anybody else. Gluing yourself to Ryan Poles this year may really, really, really hurt you in the long run.
What? Say that again? Gluing yourself to Ryan Poles? Do you mean the Bears?
Yes.
Okay.
Like making your decisions based off the fact that he's going to be here. When he has 1 year left on his deal, you should entertain all options. And if some of those options wind up being, hey, we have to fire Ryan Poles so that Vrabel can come in here with his personnel guy, in my opinion, it would be worth eating that 1 year of that salary. Instead, they're operating from the, hey, Ryan's here, period. And if that's what they're gonna do, then you're gonna get a guy who's up and coming, who needs a shot. That's why we're interviewing the defensive coordinator from the Dolphins.
Yeah, someone had made a comment. I wanted to make sure that get addressed. I mean, there's so many things I wanted to just touch on real quick. So, Mike Vrabel absolutely was not responsible for the draft pick of Marcus Mariota.
So he fixed that.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel was hired in 2018, and then he led the Titans to the 2019 AFC Championship game the following year. And Mariota was drafted in the 2015 NFL Draft. And then another thing I wanted to touch on real quick is I'm going to talk about 3 groups of people. I'm going to talk about Bears fans, Steelers fans, and Justin Fields fans. How funny would it be if the Bears acquired Tomlin, and let's say you're a Fields fan, right? You're saying, the Steelers, Mike Tomlin identified Justin Fields as being the guy. He's fantastic. And then Tomlin goes to the Bears and says, this Caleb Williams guy is pretty fucking good. How funny would that be, man, to just have that come full circle like that? That'd be hilarious.
For real.
But the main point here is if you want to move on from Ryan Poles because you feel like he hasn't done a good enough job in the draft, hadn't managed the free agency or the roster the way that you'd expect to, getting rid of Ryan Poles opens the door for the new general manager, the head coach, the new regime. If Caleb Williams doesn't have a Pro Bowl season in 2025 and you're like another top 10, top 5 draft pick, that could mean that Caleb Williams is on his way out. You could say, let's trade Caleb Williams away for a second-round pick. Let's recoup. I want my guy. You know, we have to have everything aligned, right? McCaskey hired Warren. Warren hired the general manager. The general manager brought in his own head coach. Now that you need your quarterback. That's what's going to happen. And that terrifies me. Because there's just something about it, right? I'm not an analytics guy like yourself, like you've said. I don't have these amazing stats to say that Caleb Williams is going to have a gold jacket in 10, 15 years whenever he decides to retire, right? I feel so strongly, though, that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback, can be the best quarterback in Chicago Bears history. Currently, he's probably a top 5 passing quarterback for the Bears ever, and that's sad to say out of the small sample size. But Jay Cutler's your best ever quarterback. Maybe some would argue Jim McMahon. But Caleb Williams has so much more talent than any of those two guys combined. Let's just be honest here.
Jay Cutler's only your best quarterback because he re-signed once.
If that's what you want to go off of, I mean,
he is. I'm not
feel
testing his talent, but the fact is that he was here long enough in the modern day era to put up numbers. But it's nothing crazy. In fact, I know when we drafted Justin Fields, that's what I said. I go, all you have to do is really be better than Jay Cutler. That bar is. It's an average bar. It's not a super high bar.
Yeah.
So like, yes, Jay Cutler was really good for us. Yes, he did lead us to an NFC championship. He was also very boneheaded. I don't know. I have mixed thoughts on Jay Cutler, but I can't take anything away from his talent. Russell. God damn it. Caleb Williams is the best quarterback we've had. And as long as we're able to re-sign him once, I totally think he'll prove it record-wise too, stat-wise and all that stuff. I mean,
he finally aligns with the modern NFL, right? Like a modern passer who gets 4,000 yards passing. It's a good season. 3,500 yards. It's a good season, but it's not like
everything uphill, man. Everything's against him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's so funny, Flex Diggs. Josh McCown actually outplayed Jay Cutler. And that comment was posted, I believe, on the BearskiFilm channel. If you guys didn't know, by the way, this is a perfect opportunity for me to say. This stream currently is being simulcasted to 3 channels. The Thines My channel, the Bears Country Productions channel, and the BearskiFilm channel. If you guys are not subscribed to either of those channels, please consider subscribing to any of those of which you are not. And please make sure to remember to hit the like button. It definitely, I appreciate it. I know Paul appreciates it.
Hell yeah.
And it just goes a long way to kind of share the content that we're producing. So we appreciate that.
Can you put Cliff Victoria's comment up?
Yeah.
Cliff, I was born in 88.
I was going to say like Sid Luckman. Never heard of her. No. I mean.
For real though, I mean, I've gone back and looked at it, and like stat wise too. Yeah, sure. But it's bad, man. Like it's bad.
There are some people, Paulie. I remember this being like a really popular topic on TikTok, right? Just in the last, like, how long ago was this? 30 years between when Michael Jordan retired and like prime LeBron James, 20 years even. They're saying that Michael Jordan today couldn't even start for NBA teams because he isn't good enough. I think that's a load
Such a
of
joke.
bullshit. But when you're talking about Sid Luckman and your modern NFL quarterback today, that's truly apples to oranges. Sid Luckman would not be able to hang. I mean,
No, that
let's
was a
just be
different era,
honest.
man. Different era, different
Yeah,
time.
it really was. So, all
He
that to
did well in
say,
that era, but I mean,
you have to take that into consideration. But
it
I still feel unbiased. Jay Cutler's your best ever quarterback. Jim McMahon's right up there. But Caleb Williams is the absolute most talented.
and it's funny because it's like, we've thank you,
Simulcasting the
J2K.
stream to a dungeon in Bangkok.
That's
God
probably where
bless.
most
Long
of
live
our viewers are coming
J2K.
from right now, or from a
That's
dungeon in Bangkok.
awesome.
So,
That's awesome, J2K.
it's funny though because it's like we as fans are like, oh, we just need a 4,000-yard passer. We just want a 4,000-yard passer. This and that. That's such the norm in the NFL that like, dude, you could look at the Bengals right now. Joe Burrow's got like close to 5,000 yards, and they might not make the playoffs. Like, um, or they're just scratching at it, and so it's like, no, you need a lot more than that. It's just that's the norm, and we haven't even come close to that. So like to see it, it's nice. We're still at 4 wins, like so.
King
Yeah,
Buka, I mean, some blue rocks, those sound lovely right now. If you've got any of those blue rocks, King Buka, I'll give you my address. I mean, let's party.
yeah, anything Michigan colored, right?
Oh,
So,
very, very funny. Nice one, nice one. But no, man, I mean, there's so much to kind of weigh as far as a culture change, a new general manager. I don't know if there's a better option than Ryan Poles. There could be, but the biggest thing is just everything has to align, I guess, objectively. And
what about
obviously, go ahead.
Joe Douglas?
Really don't know who that is. Is he
So,
affiliated with New York?
yes, New York Jets. So he was the
Oh.
guy who, hey, listen, man, that roster was not a bad roster, and then ownership handcuffed him to go out and get Aaron
What was the
Rodgers.
time period? I mean, I'll Google it, but
Yeah, you can. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not claiming to be an expert on Joe Douglas, but I do know that he did acquire a decent amount of talent. And the Zach Wilson move was definitely not a good move by any means. But you look at that,
2019 to 2024. I'm sorry, pal. I don't think that the Jets have been any sort of competitive in that time frame.
and I'm not saying they have been. I mean, they're also in a tough division with the Bills and whatnot. But
Oh my
uh,
God! Did you do your research on Joe Douglas?
no, not all the way. I mean, it's just
Did you know that Wikipedia is claiming that Joe Douglas for the 2015 season was the director of college scouting for the Chicago Bears?
no fucking way.
Yeah, man.
Wow. So yeah, okay, didn't know that. But I mean, that's just like a name that's out there. That's somebody. Listen, I'm not sure who. At the end of the day, like you don't. All I want is continuity between the two. Like you look at the 49ers, they didn't hire their GM; they hired their coach first. Kyle Shanahan went in there with Lynch as his GM. I mean, they pretty much came together because wherever they were going together because they're on the same page. They have the same idea for what they want as far as a play style and talent acquisition. And it's, I think that's where Mike Vrabel's coming from too. It's he's going to want a guy that agrees with his mentality and his style and not is just like the separate guy doing his own thing. And so that's kind of what I want. I don't care which one comes first, which one comes second. In my opinion, they both should be hired the same day because it should be a package deal. You know what I mean? But that can't be off the table because you're willing to sacrifice that because you're going to keep Ryan Poles for one more year. To me, that's the part that's going to haunt you, just like keeping Eberflus for one more year haunted
So
you.
to drive that point home, you feel that that name that you're talking about to your philosophy is Mike Vrabel. You cannot miss out on a Mike Vrabel if that means that Ryan Poles would be taken away, correct?
Yeah, like, dude, Mike Vrabel isn't even like my top option. My top option was Jim Harbaugh last year. We already messed this up. You know what I mean? And so, like, based off who's available, yeah, I'll take Vrabel. I know people don't like Josh McCown. I don't like him as a head coach. I'll take him as an offensive coordinator, super experienced, on the same page. He's got a lot of connections with Mike Vrabel. Dude, like, let's just get some legitimate staff in here that's played football, that's coached football, that's had some success in this damn league, and let's just get this thing to a respectable area instead of having one winning season in the last 12 years. I'm sick of that.
So that philosophy, I think, directly applies to a name that I, on the Viance My channel, just made or released a YouTube Shorts on. The name Pete Carroll, a couple weeks ago, had surfaced and said either that A, Pete Carroll had expressed interest in the Bears. I think it was both. Pete Carroll expressed interest in the Bears, and the Bears insiders had reported that the Bears were interested in Pete Carroll. Is that a name that you would be willing to bring in as the head coach of the Chicago Bears?
I personally have always just had a dislike for Pete Carroll, almost like a hate for Pete Carroll. I think the age thing might be kind of a little bit of a factor too that may kind of play into why I wouldn't want him. But that's the style. Essentially, Mike Vrabel is kind of like that, just younger, less experienced, and he's got less of a resume than Pete Carroll does. I mean, Pete Carroll is obviously successful in this league, right? But like I said, to turn this locker room around, I don't know if I want to bring a 70-year-old guy in here to rah-rah these.
Or at the very least, just say you want to install a philosophy like you're John Fox, right? You're not getting more than 5 years out of
right
the head coach, Pete Carroll.
But I do believe he's established. I do believe he's got connections in this league. I do believe he brings, coaches under him that he's confident in and that are confident in him. I believe.
Are you referring to Shane Waldron? I'm just giving you a hard time.
Right. I mean, but you know what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, the problem I had with Matt Eberflus is that he was so one-sided on the football. Same thing with Matt Nagy too. Matt Nagy was offense. Vic Fangio, you take care of the defense. But the second Vic Fangio went away, that defense fell apart because there's no just like established philosophy from the top down. It's always like cut in half. Same thing with Matt Eberflus. It's like he's going to take care of the defense, but he's trusting Luke Getsy to do everything with the offense. And that's why I said this year we really would have needed like Shane Waldron to be a miracle, to be like the saving grace and totally run and command this offense like a head coach would. You look at these good teams like Andy Reid has Steve Spagnuolo. You know what I mean? Right now, Vic Fangio's on the Eagles. So if you get that guy,
I don't know if it's just defensive guys, but yeah, you almost kind of need like a solidified cast-off. Like one of the names, ironically, I think this is the offensive coordinator of the Eagles too, but it was Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator of the Cowboys when the Cowboys had an uber powerful offense, and he was kind of like Ben Johnson in the sense that he was a top-flight candidate, but he didn't want to leave except for the perfect situation, and he kind of let that past him. So now it's like these guys are shoot in to their role. You can never be more than an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. Rod Marinelli, very good coach, is also the person responsible for the Lions having a winless season. He would never, ever become a head coach ever again. So when you're hiring him, he's going to be a defensive coordinator or some sort of coach for your defense. And he was damn good. But the Bears might need something like that, but we're not talking about the Shane Waldron experiment anymore. We're talking about a brand new head coach. I think that your head coach has to not only bring in this culture change that we're talking about, but they also have to be able to identify talent both at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Because right now we're seeing that bad coaching really obviously can just trump even the most talented of players.
100%. And that's why I said it comes down to an established philosophy. You need as a head coach, I don't really want you calling plays. Like, that's not where I want your head to be at. You have a lot more responsibility than just play calling. But the guy under you on the defensive side or the offensive side, both those play callers, both those coordinators need to be lockstep on the same page with what you want them to do, with how you want the team to run. And that is not what Eberflus did. Eberflus had his side of the ball. And it's like he just trusted the other coordinator to handle his business on the other side of the ball. And
so you don't want your head coach calling offensive plays?
I mean, listen. There's very few guys in
Like
this
this
league.
guy? Like this
Like
guy?
this is one of them. Andy Reid's another one. I mean, there's examples out there of guys who do call plays, but no, I would much rather have someone like Mike Tomlin who handles his business and just everybody just needs to do their damn job. Did Bill Belichick call plays?
No, but
No.
he was the mastermind behind that defense.
7 Super Bowls. So I mean, at the end of the day, there's a structure that's even been laid out for repeated success. And like I said, there's different ways to do it. Sure, you could have a guy calling plays and whatnot, but um, that's not what we need. We need attention to detail. We don't need a guy shoving his head into a play sheet. Dude, that's one thing I hated about Matt Nagy in that 2018 season. I think first week against the Packers. I remember we were at the goal line and third down and goal. It was like 5 yards to the goal line, and we get a false start. Back up 5 yards or 10 yards or whatever it is. And camera pans over to Nagy, and he's just in his play sheet calling out plays. It's like, dude, you don't even care. Like, to me, those are the type of things where, like, we talk about culture. Want to talk about culture? Look at what the Patriots did. They sat their starting corner for the Super Bowl. We still don't know why. Dude, you make a mistake, you're getting brought over to the sideline, you're getting talked to, and then your ass is getting sat down. You'll get back into the game, maybe, or maybe not. But, like, you're not just going to go out there and fuck this up for us. And I was be like, all right, try again. No, it's not. There was a set of expectations there that needed to be met, or else. That's why, like, with the Tyreek Stevenson thing, it's like, man, you needed to handle that right away. But you've spent 3 years creating a certain style and a certain attitude and a certain atmosphere to where now for you to be able to do things the right way when they finally blow up is unorthodox and disrespectful.
Yeah,
Players lost respect.
especially, well, I guess it'd be Eberflus's choice in the moment regarding Tyreek Stevenson, but the opportunity cost was so low. Terrell Smith was playing just fine. He's
Yep.
been playing just fine as he was rotating in with Tyreek Stevenson more and more. I mean, I think that we talked about it directly. I mean, that was such a pivotal way to handle it, and they handled it a certain way. But obviously, the end result was that locker room boiled over. Got your head coach fired. First time it ever happened in Bears history. I mean, so many things have gone bad. Um,
And
I,
Davis.
I don't know if I agree with King Buka saying that McVay is an anomaly. He's an anomaly in the sense that he's a very good head coach, but the best of the best. It's like I heard this quote from.
No, he's like a prodigy, though, dude. He is. He's an anomaly.
No, yeah, like I adore one of his unique traits, and I thought that I heard it one time from Thomas Brown, but McVay has that trait about him where you could say, okay, Mr. McVay. The reporters will do this at the end of interviews or media sessions. They'll say, Mr. McVay, you played the Redskins on your second game in the NFL, and it was third down and 6th. The ball was at this yard line. What play did you run? No break. I ran this. This is what happens. The ball was thrown here, but I wanted to go here. Blah, 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 blah. He's fantastic. He's a prodigy in that sense.
Well,
but
you know why? Because you're not making it up as you go. Because in that situation, at that time, at that down and distance with third and 6, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
So I remember how it went because it's established what we're going to do.
Right. But what I was going to say is there's a gentleman on 670 The Score. He referred to this as either the elitist syndrome or something of that, the elite of the elite. The best ones do call their own plays. I almost want to say that O'Connell calls the plays for the Vikings offense. LaFleur calls the plays for the offense and the Packers. We're talking about some damn good head coaches. And obviously the Lions could be the cream of the crop, and their head coach is just a lowly tight end who abuses caffeine and doesn't brush his teeth and does not call any plays, but he was able to identify talent and help them get potentially the best offensive coordinator in football, arguably a top 5 defensive coordinator with really bad talent because of injuries. So
for every one of those guys that you have, there's a dozen or two other guys that are supposed to be that and fail miserably. There's been a lot of offensive geniuses that want to be in offensive dumbasses at the end of the day, right? So, like, You're
I feel like
truly
that's also potentially due to the added responsibility of being a head coach. So
correct.
that's why I feel like if McCown is that guy, it's a bit too early to just throw him into the fire in that sense.
Well, I'm talking about Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, Ben Johnson,
so
he has a little bit of experience still, right? And that's the thing with him is, let's say if slash when the Bears do hire Ben Johnson, I'm going to be disappointed in the first hour, maybe the first day. But then I will have extreme optimism because he is producing an extremely good offense, whether that's because of the offensive line or not. But he's also elevating Jared Goff. I don't think that Jared Goff is worth a damn. And for him to be scraping the ceiling, getting all of that talent at the tip top of his ceiling, that's an anomaly. So Ben Johnson could do it with Caleb Williams. I wouldn't be surprised, but it could also be a Thomas Brown situation. Have too much on your plate. You can't do exactly what you want all the time, and it's just not going to work out. I would not be surprised, and that would be very disheartening.
yeah, but I don't think it'd be as bad as Thomas Brown. Like, I think obviously at some point, it's like, dude, keep going back to this. Like, play checkers before you play chess. Fucking, you got Braxton Jones out there. He's not holding up. Fucking give him some help. It's really.
There's been
like,
so many times when I've seen Mercedes Lewis on the side of a tackle and just not do anything, and it's so frustrating.
so that's what I mean. If you just like even basic stuff like that, you know what I mean? If you could even change that, it would make a decent amount of difference. And then you'd have faith that when it does get good, if it does get good, that Ben Johnson would be able to handle that. Where somebody brought up the name Cliff Kingsbury. Listen, I'll take him as an offensive coordinator, but Cliff Kingsbury has proven to me that he's been able to get a team better, but hit a wall once they're good. Once they're good, he struggled to really do anything over the top that's meaningful and whatnot. But
That stigma is being extinguished just a little bit. The Redskins had a fantastic game where their quarterback engineered a very strong performance and beat the Eagles, albeit while at their shitty home stadium. It's
as an
starting to
offensive
fade a little bit.
coordinator,
Yes, right,
I'm talking
exactly.
about him
Sure.
as a head coach. You see what I'm saying? Like, as a head coach, he's got a different
Well,
resume.
it'd still be his offense. I have reservations just about his offense before any of that. But I hear your point.
But a head coach is more than just offense.
But he'd still be calling the plays on offense, in my opinion. I'm
I
pretty certain of that.
I understand. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't necessarily need that, though. What I need is for the team to be better. And if you could just even establish a checkers game plan and just have your coordinators be on the same page and just even teach the simplicity down and start executing better. I think there's enough talent where the talent can maybe take you over the top and start winning you games. It's just you got to create the floor for these guys, man. They like that's why you've had these veterans come out and talk. That's why you've had Keenan Allen come out and talk. Because it's just like, dude, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be in a huddle and get half a play call. He talked about how on fourth down, when against the Packers, when the special teams started running out and they started calling him back, and Eberflus was on the wrong channel. By the time they got on the right channel, Thomas Brown managed to rattle off half a play. And Caleb was like, well, let me guess what he tried to call. And he rattled off a run. And Keenan Allen's like, it's 4th and 5. It's stupid. We're not running the ball. But we got to line up. There's 12 seconds on the clock. And Caleb Williams knows it's stupid too, but he had to get something out. So they line up. He tries to audible out of it, but Keenan's like, but we're out of a run formation. I think he ended the whole thing with like, we did the best we can. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you heard this early on with Tevin Jenkins when he said there's so much we can control. And we're doing what we're being told and asked to do. Like, you know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, like that's what you need to fix, and you need to get that to a respectable level. And that doesn't need to get fancy yet. I know J2K hates the word cute. I don't know what other way to say it. It doesn't need to get fancy. It doesn't need to get strategically clever. You don't need to be playing chess yet. Start with checkers. Let's start executing properly. Let's stop shooting ourselves in the foot. More games are lost than are won in this league. And I love that quote because obviously, record-wise, it's 500. Just as many games are lost as are won on paper, like record-wise. But no, teams will go out there and lose more games. They will shoot themselves in the foot and fail more often than execute and succeed. And you just need to be the beneficiary of that failure. If you just go out there, that's why I love the Patriots, because for the longest time they just went out there and played clean, man. Yeah, and so I don't know if you want to turn the audio on for this. I'll stop talking. This was third downs for the
Yeah,
Bears.
I mean, it felt like an opportune time to throw
No,
this on
great.
the
Yeah,
screen
I was gonna say
because
too. Like you should play this.
we're talking about being able to do the basic things in an effective way before
Yeah,
you start
look,
getting elaborate, right?
two
Right
guys just
here,
off page.
Roma
Yep.
Dunze. I'm going to pause this right here. Roma Dunze's stretching for this ball. It was
Watch Caleb.
overthrown.
Watch Caleb being like you were supposed to run.
Right,
He's gonna play right
and
after.
actually, the great Nicholas Moriano, formerly of CHGO, thank God, he had come out and asked the wide receivers coach, Chris Beatty, I believe is his name, about if Roma Dunze was at fault here or not, and he said, yeah, Roma Dunze is at fault. We teach these guys that you have to view everything through the lens of a quarterback, and the quarterback wanted you to continue to the next level, and that's why Caleb Williams said that, he reacted the way he did and whatnot.
And J2K is right. That is on Rome, and he's still a rookie. But like, so is Caleb, and Caleb and you, and Caleb's a rookie. It's your ability to teach these guys and have these guys be on the same page, executing the same game plan, right? And if you're gonna get fancy, it's gonna be too much. Like, dude, like I said, 3rd and 4 against the Packers for the last 10 years. What are they doing? Slant, inside slant. You don't need to get creative with a play call. 4th and 1 against Tom Brady. What's he doing? Quarterback sneak right up the middle. Stop it. Stop it. Like, play checkers. And man, that's why I want a guy like Mike Vrabel in here. Like I said, all these things for me point to having a guy that's come in here and being able. What is this fancy? I can't. There's no terminology I can use to make J2K happy. But that's why I don't care about it being creative scheme wise. I don't care about the scheme being simple. I care about establishing, like you said, a culture, because we obviously need to. And, we tossed this word accountability a lot this year. Accountability comes with results, man. Hold these guys accountable. When they don't do things, guess what? You sit your ass down. You know what I mean? I want to bring the name up, Vernon Davis, Mike Singletary. Right after that game, he went out there and said, I can't win with this guy. I won't play with this guy. Vernon Davis said that changed his career around. He said it changed his life around.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the interview. I'm positive that you have, but it recently popped up. Mr. Jeff Bezos or whoever's running TikTok was listening to you when you have said this multiple times. I mean, he was right. He said that Mike Singletary essentially saved his career.
And do you think Tyreek Stevenson feels the same way?
I feel like Tyreek Stevenson is looking forward to his time in South Miami.
Man. He should have been smacked in the face after that.
I feel like the Bears players should have held him accountable.
Well, so that's the thing, is that type of leadership doesn't have to come from a head coach. It can come from a locker room. We saw that in 2006 here.
I recently listened to Tom Brady. I saw a little blurb on TikTok from Tom Brady. Tom Brady said that our job was to make sure that nothing from the team reached Bill, because that would piss him off, right? So things like that. Tyreek Stevenson fucked up. Eberflus will talk to him, but the team has to be like, hey, not only did you miss your fucking assignment, but you were telling fans to do what? Like that. That's the shit where he needs to be held accountable and not be fearful, but essentially stick up for his teammates, right? His teammates depend on him. All 10 of those guys did their job exactly as they were called to, and they did a fine job. But just because Tyreek Stevenson decided not to do his job, they lost a football game because of it.
Well, because okay, let's go back here. You've had, up to that point, you've had, 4, 5 instances where you had like over a 95% chance to win a game, and you blew it mainly because of coaching. So, like, how much do you want these guys to try and fail and try and fail and try and fail because of you? And and establish locker room leadership when, like, even when they, like, dude, I was positive that Justin Fields last year here, after, what was it, that Detroit collapse? where we were up so much on him, and we still lost that game. Um, dude,
Or the Broncos game.
no, the Broncos game was like the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then after the Detroit one, I was like, oh, these guys are not going to ever try this hard ever again. And I'll admit when I'm wrong. That's what I said. That's not what happened. They went out the next week against the Vikings and barely won like 12-9, but still got like 4 turnovers. And they kept getting turnovers, and they kept trying.
That
And they
Monday
kept
night game, probably, yeah.
But man, there were all these crazy moments where like you're losing at the last second, and it's due to this coaching. Like this was the straw that broke the camel's back.
You're talking about this year, right?
This year with Tyreek Stevenson. At
Yeah,
that point,
I'm gonna in the off season. I think I'm gonna try and create some content out of the old school footage, and by old school I mean whatever the NFL subscription is allowing me to view, because I think it only goes back 10, 15 years, right? But I genuinely don't remember this Bears team having these late moment collapses, and it's like sequential. No, yeah, Eberflus, that's the first time I can remember it being like so prevalent and sequential, right? You had a blunder against the Redskins. You got to fix it, right? Nope. Against the Cardinals, you give up a long run that, in my opinion, was even more difficult to concede than the damn Hail Mary. How do you give up a 60-yard touchdown run out of...
That hasn't been done since like the 1950s.
Right, yeah. So like we're breaking records, but in the wrong way. It's really embarrassing stuff. And again, at least, and in my opinion, this is a huge plus of Ryan Poles. All this bullshit was happening. It would have been so easy to just be like, well, we'll just try next year. No, they did fire the head coach. First time it ever happened. And Ryan Poles had to have signed off on that. And that's why I think Ryan Poles deserves one last chance, right? I don't care if you feel like Eberflus was the guy or was not the guy for Poles. It was, if you feel like he was going to hire him regardless of anything. I feel like that marriage was predetermined. And then going into the start this year, maybe you could have said, okay, let's fire the head coach, but you chose not to. And that's a bigger issue than hiring him to begin with. But all that is trumped by him firing him and signing off rather on him being fired in the beginning of the in the middle of the season. I think that's a huge plus for Poles.
I agree. I agree in that sense. But like you said, the ultimate failure was sticking with him during the offseason. But like I said, I'll play the devil's advocate. There were a lot of reasons to stick by him. As much as I hate to admit it, you typically don't fire a coach after 2 years. Typically, a coach gets 3 years, right? So this was Eberflus's second year, at the end of the second year. You went up in wins. You went from 3 wins to 7 wins. Usually, you don't fire a coach as the team's getting better. You had the defense, like I said, trying for you, even though I thought it was not going to be possible.
Yeah. So, I'm going to steal your thunder on this real quick because I think it's important, right? And I don't mean to single you out or anything like that, but this is something that I think you are wrong on. You said that another coach would be able to take the talent on this defense and have them play at an adequate level, right? You'd be able to have them kind of be at the same level. If Eberflus is 100%, you'd be able to get another guy who comes in and do it 90%, let's just say, right? And a lot of people at the beginning of the season said that Eric Washington was the savior. Oh, let's just have Eberflus become the head coach and just have Eric Washington call the plays because he's good enough, right? Eric Washington is fucking terrible. He is fucking awful. And this defense's performance after you got rid of Eberflus is quite literally night and day. It's got me thinking that players like TJ Edwards, who I originally thought that TJ Edwards could supplant Lance Briggs in Super Bowl 41 and you wouldn't fucking notice it. But that's wrong. It's making me feel like it's wrong now. Like, the defense was playing so piss poor. It was terrible. But Eberflus was a damn good defensive coordinator.
Yes, I was just about to say the same thing. I'm not taking anything away from him as a defensive coordinator or as a defensive play caller. However, his job responsibilities were to be a head coach. That's what we're talking about, too, with these offensive guys. It's like, dude, yeah, great. You call plays, you run an offense, good, but, like, your responsibilities are to be a head coach. I actually had a lot of respect for Brian Dable when he first got hired at the Giants because he got hired because he called plays for the Bills. And he went in there and said, I'm not calling plays. I got a lot of other shit to worry about. And once that failed, he started calling plays because he had to. However, he still gave the right structure a shot. Like, no, you're that's not supposed to be what your responsibility is. Your responsibility as a head coach is to focus on a lot of details here, man. A lot of different details. And offensive coordinating, offensive play calling is a job in itself.
And the good thing that I think that you'll agree with me on this is that when you have a Mike Tomlin, when you have a Bill Belichick who are not calling the plays, it's not that they're totally zoned out and they're talking to someone on the sideline and their back is turned to the field, right? You've got numerous amounts of clips from Mike Tomlin when in situations that matter. I feel like I saw this when he was in like a championship game or a Super Bowl, right? He's on the mic, and you hear the announcer or whatever is synced up. As soon as the play is done, or as the guy is completing the catch or getting tackled out of bounds, you've got Tomlin shoving the microphone in his face going, I need the best fucking run that you've got, and then you've still got 38, 37 seconds to get that best run you got called. So you can still have your pulse on the game. And in my opinion, Vrabel, who is a Super Bowl winner, and who took a team like the Titans 1 year after being the head coach, now you're in the championship game, Vrabel would be good at that.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about here, Karl. Exactly what I'm talking about. An established philosophy. Dude, you have all off season to get together and say, 3rd and 3, we could run this, we could run this, we could run this, we could run this. 3rd and 4, we could run this, we can run this, we could, like, I don't care which one you run. But like when we're in that situation, this is what our options are, and this is what we're going to do. And whatever you feel is best, you go ahead and you call it. But like the difference is in the Washington game, backup center, fullback dive, Mike Tomlin would be like, the fuck we are. And that might have been all you hear from him on the offensive channel all game. But
yeah, I mean, the play call may have made it in, right? Like, you've got Doug Kramer literally stepping onto the field, and you say, okay, fullback dive with a backup center. You'd see Tomlin go, timeout, and then just fucking punches being thrown. Like, he would put that shit.
But what happens when you have to sit there and talk to your defense about the last defensive drive, about what happened, about how the offense was operating on you, about what we can do? You're acting as a defensive coordinator, not as a head coach. You got a lot of responsibilities there to not be heading into the game. Dude, in that Washington game, the play before the Hail Mary, dude, Caleb Williams did everything he could to lead the team to a position and put us in a position where we're going to win. Dude, he went to the sidelines exhausted, went there, laid his head back, looked up, and had to be like, what the fuck? He got off the bench and pulled the head coach off the field.
So that you wouldn't get
He's more aware than you?
Yeah.
You're the head coach.
Yeah. So Cliff has a good comment to kind of round this point out. He says that would Vrabel be the best coach for Caleb? I don't know about the best coach. The best coach for Caleb would tell you might be Cliff Kingsbury because he's got familiarity, all that good stuff. But I think that what Cliff is alluding to is, would Vrabel's personality mesh with Caleb Williams, do you think?
Well, I'm not. That's a great question, Cliff. It really is. That's a good question. And I think with a guy like Vrabel, you're going to lean more on an offensive coordinator. I would love Vrabel to come in here and bring Cliff Kingsbury as his OC. I mean, he's not going to leave an OC job to get another OC job, but like I said, like, give me another guy that's experienced in here, that's done it before, that's on the same page. And that's who would have to be best for Caleb. And so, like, I think Vrabel would be best for our team right now. Our team as a whole. What's best for Caleb may not be best for the team. I mean, sure, like I said, we're almost at 4,000 yards with Caleb, but we're at 4 wins. You know, we talked about Mark Trestman. We had a top 5 projected offense. What happened? The defense sucked. And that implodes the season, implodes the team. Karl, I love bringing this one up. I think it was 2010 Chargers. Number 1 offense, number 1 defense, 32nd special teams. They went, I believe, 8-8 or 9-7, missed the playoffs. Number 1 offense, number 1 defense, and missed the damn playoffs. People forget. It's a team game. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. You're totally spot on. Cliff Victoria is saying that the OC position would be important. It sure would be. Just as Vrabel was able to identify talent on the offense in A.J. Brown, he was also able to identify that Matt LaFleur was a good offensive coordinator after 1 season. Look what Matt LaFleur has become as a head coach. So the writing is on the wall as far as what Vrabel is at the very least capable of. Something that I am nervous
I heard their
about.
personalities disagreed too. I heard they didn't get
Interesting.
along personality wise, but he's still
Yeah, I actually
hired
could
him.
see that because whenever Lafleur is like in like a contested game and he's ever so slightly frustrated, he like gets snarky and yells at the reporters that he speaks to. He's a son of a bitch, and Vrabel I know would not put up with that.
Nope.
But one thing that scares me regarding Vrabel, if we're going to say that he's kind of one of our best options here, the Las Vegas Raiders potentially are going to be firing their head coach, with that being Antonio Pierce. Maybe because of circumstance, maybe because he's not the best head coach, maybe because of both. But do you know who the new owner, partial owner, majority owner, whatever it is, of the Las Vegas Raiders is now? Paulie, do you know who that is?
Could it be the one and only? I mean, dude, I got to sign football by this man.
You
Tom
got a
Brady.
signed football by Tom Brady?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Tom Brady.
But-
It's my golden nugget, man. I keep it in a little case
That's
upstairs.
awesome.
Yeah,
I would
behind
treat
the
it
little
the exact
window.
same way.
For sure. I got it as a birthday present on my 30th birthday. So
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
But that's the truth. Tom
When me
Brady
and
is in
David were-
ownership of the Raiders, and if Vrabel is talking about needing to be on page with ownership, if he's going to be on page with anyone, wouldn't that be Tom Brady?
I guess, but maybe that's too high up. I mean, I don't know how much influence Tom Brady has on the Raiders making like week to week decisions. And
He's in
things
a
like that.
position with Fox to where I don't think that Tom Brady is allowed to have any negative comments about players
Exactly, and just in general, like he's not allowed to be
as a commentator, that is.
as a well because he's a commentator and because he's a partial owner. Like he's not allowed to be in certain areas where other commentators are. Right, so like
That's
he's
what
very
I'm trying to
restricted
say.
because he's a partial owner.
I think that Tom Brady is going to be a bigger force for the Raiders than maybe we would think, in my opinion.
It's a great name. I think it's a lot of financial involvement. You know what I mean? However, like I don't know if Vrabel would have to be lockstep with him. You know, at the end of the day, it would be a benefit. It's not a negative. It's a positive. But I think, just like I didn't listen, I told you, I really liked what the Patriots did. Really admired what they did over those years. I'm not a hater by any means. They're my second favorite team behind the Bears, and because of that, I have a lot of admiration for Tom Brady. I have a lot of admiration for Bill Belichick. I did not want Bill Belichick here. Kind of for the same reasons I don't want Pete Carroll here, right? As much as I love the guy, as much as I believe him and everything, one thing's for sure. If Bill Belichick was here, the second George would waddle into his office and fucking say anything, I don't care what it would be, Bill Belichick would be like, get the fuck out. Don't talk to me. Go worry about something else.
Absolutely.
I feel the same way from Mike Vrabel. I feel he'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. I've come from a background, been under a guy that's been the same way. I feel that's culture, Karl. That's culture right there.
I want to. This is completely separate from the topic, okay, Paul? Antmas is saying something as far as not fair, only BCP screen love. And there was another comment that you had made regarding something about screen tags.
I don't know. You might not be able to see the comments that are on my channel. Maybe not.
Maybe that's what you're referring to. I can't find it anymore.
Awesome.
But if you guys are saying something specific as far as like a discrepancy between the streams, feel free to drop it in the comment section. I'll see if I can figure out exactly what might be going on.
Or leave the Thigh and Smile stream and go to BearskiFilm. No.
Well, to be blunt, if you guys
leave
this is going to be
and go to Thigh and Smile.
this is going to be the prime reason, okay?
Don't leave
Mr. Bearsky Film and Mr. Bears Country Productions. Those outfits are very successful. That means that they are monetized. That means that they're advertisements. The Lowly Thines, my channel, podcast channel, not affiliated with anything. No advertisements. So if you guys want to circumvent the ads, there's one avenue that you can take. But I will never ask you to go to one channel or the other. I will just kindly remind you that this broadcast, this stream, is being simulcasted on 3 channels: Bears Country Productions, BearskiFilm, and Thy and Smile. If you guys are not subscribed to any of those channels, please consider subscribing to any.
And I think my the people that love my channel, and I got a couple of them, and some of them love all 3 of the channels. Like we see a lot of these names all the time. Like I know, like Aunt Mass is always watching my stuff. Prometheus is a guy that's always watching my videos and whatnot. Prometheus,
Absolutely.
man, feel free, leave the BearskiFilm channel, go to Thigh and Spy. I'm monetized, cool, I don't care. Like, go show Thigh some love, man, because to me, this isn't about the pennies or the dollars or whatever.
Agreed.
This is about the time spent and the valued conversation and the enjoyment of a fucking football talk, man. So, like, yeah, you want your comment up. If it's not popping up on BearskiFilm, hop over on Thigh and Spy, make the comment. Karl, I'm sure, will then see it and get to it. Especially if you just put like something about Michigan first and then your actual comment. Oh, it's like an instant.
That's the only thing I got going for me. Don't dog on me for that. Even Michigan was terrible this year, but they were able to beat that team, and that feels good. So I feel that's a good segue into kind of maybe our closing conversation for this entire conversation. Bears got a football game tomorrow. It's going to be their last football game of the 2024 season. Is there anything that you want to see against the Packers? Are you hoping to have Caleb Williams rest? Are you hoping that the Bears lose for a better draft pick? What are you looking for the game tomorrow, Paul?
Yeah, so it's funny because David asked me this before the Seahawks game. He's like, "What do we have to gain?" He's like, "From your football tendencies, from your football philosophy aspect." And I was like, well, like, you might make Virginia happy if you beat Green Bay. And we're like, yeah, but that's a joke. He's like, no, he's like, from your point of view. And I was like, oh, from me. Like, if it's me calling the shots, oh, I would have treated the Seahawks game as a preseason game, and I would treat this one as a preseason game. Totally. I would have saved my quarterback from taking more hits. I mean, dude, you took, 7 more sacks? 7 fucking more sacks against the Seahawks? You put up 3 points? Oh, yeah, those snaps are doing them real good. Like, man, to me, it's not worth it. To me, it's not worth it at all. I would say, hey, we've had enough of this. We've done enough. We've seen enough. We've experienced enough. At some point, this is a very violent and physical game. I know you could get hurt at any time, but, like, what? Why increase the chance of you getting hurt by putting you out there to go get sacked 7 more times? Like,
so we had a really good back and forth conversation about this. Should you rest Caleb against the Lions, the Vikings, and the Seahawks? I obviously said no. You said they should. End result is what it is, right?
I knew they wouldn't, but I think
that Caleb Williams' experience is going to help him in the long haul, even though he's taking sacks. Just as a reminder. These are not the same sacks that the leader. It's not Derek Carr. David. These are not the same sacks that David Carr was taking. This is a different NFL. They're very close to wearing lingerie instead of football pads. It's not the same thing. But at this point, knowing that the season is gone, seeing the output that your offense is having, knowing that Thomas Brown is not as good of a play caller as he is when he's only got one responsibility, I think against the Packers, who are destined to go to the playoffs and are just a flat-out better team than you right now, don't let Caleb Williams emotionally have this taste of defeat against your rival. Can you imagine, I don't know, Kenny Clark, the son of a bitch, sacking Caleb Williams and then doing the discount double-check belt over him? That would piss me the fuck off. He's not going to get hurt per se, but there's just nothing at this point for him to gain. Let them have their time. Tank, get a better draft pick. There's nothing for you to get at this point playing Caleb Williams. I think now... Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, please go ahead.
I'm not the better draft pick guy. I only was 1 year, and that was that Justin Fields year where we got that first pick to trade for DJ Moore. Like, that was the only time David's convinced me that, like, these games are not worth it anymore, and we haven't had a first overall pick since 1950-something. Like, it's worth losing 3 games or whatever to get that. And, like, okay, I went on board with it. But to me, no, I want a worse draft pick, man. I want the 32nd pick. I want to win the damn Super Bowl. So, like, to me, it's never about getting a higher draft pick. it's about using your draft picks smart. But like if when you're so high up in the draft, the value of that draft pick as far as like a trade back, we saw the haul we got for DJ Moore. That becomes very enticing and very valuable. We're not there though. There's a big clog at like 3 wins. Like what? We're ninth right now.
Let me throw up the tankathon, or I guess I can show it on the screen so that everyone can take a look at the same time. We are currently the 9th pick, and by all accounts, whether win or loss, we're going to have either 9th or 10th. Because if we win and the Saints lose, we have the same record, and our strength of schedule, which by the way is fucking insane, is going to push us down to 10. So the fact of the matter is, we're probably going to get the 10th overall pick, or maybe the 9th. But there is a possibility, I guess, that we are able to really push ourselves up. Let me see.
Do you remember what your answer to me was 3 weeks ago when I told you I would sit Caleb now? And it was one of the things that actually, it was one of the only pitches that actually made me go, okay, because like I'm not just stuck and stubborn on my opinion. I'll listen to people and I'll take consideration. You said if Caleb goes out there and has a 4 touchdown performance, you know what this would do for this offense and for these guys? And it's like, you know what? You're right, because they've lost so many in a row, because they've had such poor success. If they go out and have like a hell of a game, you're right. That locker room energy would actually mean a lot because it is so depleted right now. But then I took a step back and said, but what are the chances of that happening? And I said that it's very low. And I'm not willing to sacrifice my quarterback for such a small chance of that happening. Same thing right now. It's like a positive. Like, I guess if you go out there and have a hell of a game and finish the season off like that, it would be something meaningful to these guys. Like you said, like the rivalry. But what's more likely to happen is the opposite. What about if you go out there and
especially
get
with your
embarrassed?
starting left tackle being out, Tevin Jenkins, who's trying to earn a contract for his new wife and child. He is also ruled out because of a calf or something, right? Like, he just can't pony up. Like, now it's at the point where multiple straws have broke this camel's back, which had already been broken. I was hoping for the best case scenario because I try and be optimistic about this type of thing. But now it's at the point where it's just, you know what? I think I'm going to retract just a bit. I really like this comment from Mr. GM John. This is the first time I'm acknowledging you, so welcome into the stream. If Caleb Williams is playing the second half of the game, I will be very disappointed. I think that if you want to have him get the experience in the first half, go for it, and then just don't risk injury, and then hopefully Tyson Bagent's able to put a good performance together, or just lose the game out for you outright, and you end up getting a better draft pick. But
Right, but then what's the point? Why not just do it from the start, man?
Well, I guess you're right, but
because maybe he'll get no, I would listen. I would personally pull the plug 3 weeks ago. I definitely would pull the plug tomorrow. Like, it's the same, just harsher. And like, I know my opinion was unpopular 3 weeks ago because it was unrealistic. I know they're not going to do it because teams operate on what you're saying, Karl. They're operating on the hope that you do something positive and you can build something. But I'm a little bit more cutthroat than that, man. I would have done it earlier. I definitely would do it tomorrow. Even if we beat them, it means absolutely nothing this year. Absolutely nothing. So I don't know.
I believe that the Chargers had said that they are playing their starters, but they are locked into their current seed. I believe that they will be the 6th seed. Case in point, end of story. So they could potentially lose to the Raiders. The Jets are playing the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are not playing their starting quarterback. The Jets are definitely in a position where they could win the game.
All we've been doing
Panthers,
is stat chasing, man. That's all
Panthers
we've been doing.
are playing the Falcons. The Falcons absolutely need to win, and I would expect them to. And Carolina sucks, and I want their draft pick to be better, so they'll probably lose. But then you've got the Jaguars. The Jaguars, who I believe have the exact same record as the Bears, which is really sad to say. Yep, both 4-12, right? Their strength of schedule, 473. There's just no chance. The Jacksonville Jaguars will never leapfrog the Bears in any sense, right? So I think Mr. Scottish Bear said that the best case that we could have is 6th. That's a pretty big difference.
Son of a bitch, David, man. I'm telling you, I hate him for this. I
What?
really do. It just came back to me. That asshole, man. After week one, when we got that Titans win, he called me. He's like, I don't want to win like this. And my response was, this year, I will take every win we can get, even if it's like, however we do it. I need the wins this year. But look at the end result, man. He's right. We would have been better off losing that game.
So Cliff Victoria, Brown is auditioning for his next job. Will he sit Caleb Williams?
Nope.
Brown might not have any damn choice if Ryan Poles is guaranteed to be here next year.
That's what should happen.
If Ryan Poles is here and says, the apple of my eye, the quarterback that I drafted, who just so happens to be the most talented quarterback in Chicago Bears history, is not getting fucked up against the Packers. If Caleb Williams sits tomorrow against the Packers, Ryan Poles is going to be the general manager next year. I think that's fact.
That's what he should do. That's why I said at this point it's on him to sit there and say, "Hey, I'm not the guy that makes player personnel decisions, but based off the situation we're in, you are not going to sit here and put at risk, if not sacrifice, the only thing I have going for me."
Yeah. Very, very good point. So I don't know if you're big into the mock draft stuff, Paulie. Let me click out one time, okay? So this is your projected mock draft of a top 10. Why is the Bears going to the 6th position so important to me? In this mock draft, Mason Graham is going 5th. Instead of Mason Graham, this could be Abdul Carter. This is so crazy that they have Will Johnson going 4. That just puts a big fucking smile on my face. But if the Bears are within striking distance of Mason Graham, that I cannot explain to you how happy that would fucking make me. That would be such a slam dunk pick. I would just go berserk.
You know, Karl, and that's the thing about top 10 picks, period, is honestly, they need to be as much of a for sure slam dunk as possible. That was another thing with taking Rome that I kind of didn't like, is the fact that he was the 3rd wide receiver taken in that top 10.
But here's the thing.
I get it.
Marvin Harrison Jr. was called generational, and Malik Neighbors, I don't know if you heard anything about his combine or his workouts that he had privately or on LSU's Pro Day. Case in point, Malik Neighbors is a fucking freak. He is a great player, and for him to put up the numbers that he had with Daniel Jones and company, he is a fucking anomaly as much as Sean McVay is.
But these are moves for the future.
Rome Odunze
and Malik Neighbors. Where are the Giants at?
I'm sorry. I understand that, but where would they be without him?
Just as bad, if not a loss or two worse. Like,
they could go winless.
maybe.
They've got some studs on defense. I've heard Mr. Dave talk about that, but they're a terrible team. Malik Neighbors, man, he won me my fantasy championship. By the way, Vine Spy, Karl, winner of the Bears Podcaster Sleeper Fantasy Football League, courtesy of Aldo Gandia. And I whooped Aldo, 240 points in the semifinal. Bucky Irving, Baker Mayfield, God bless their souls, gave me the championship, man. I'm the fantasy football winner.
Once again, guys, Karl is not a loser, okay? Not a loser.
I don't know if you heard, this is going to be really strange, but my girlfriend loves musicals, and she listens to the SpongeBob musical, and they had whoever casted a Squidward have this one song that she plays often whenever we go on car rides. It's Squidward, if you can imagine Squidward's voice from SpongeBob going, I am not a loser. It's so fucking funny, man. It's so 100%. Funny. The boys are giving me the congratulations. This is unbelievable.
I didn't even give you the congratulations. I just called you not a loser.
Oh, it's bullshit. I don't care. That league was so terrible. Listen to this. I'm sure that I won a couple leagues because of two things. Aldo was very high when he tweaked the league, okay? So his defense, I lost the first game of the season because I played Aldo and Aldo drafted the Bears defense, and the Bears defense gave him 70 fantasy football points because of the way that he configured that league. So the defense totally fucked. Brandon Aubrey was my kicker, and he configured the kickers to have a 50-yard and a 60-yard field goal stack. So you got like 7 points for a 50-yard field goal and 8 points for a 60-yard field goal. One kick could give you 17 points. It was totally fucked.
If you could toss J2K's comment up, no one rookie is going to change the win-loss record. Not listen. I like this comment, but I have to like respectfully disagree because there's levels to this. A rookie quarterback, any quarterback, has such an impact that they totally can change the win-loss record. There's different positions that impact differently immediately. Like, if you got a premier edge rusher or a premier defensive tackle, like those guys can change games for you. They can. Wide receiver 3 has a small impact on win-loss records. So based off who we picked, and that's why it was weird because it's like, on one hand, they operated in win now mode. On the other hand, they like drafted pick 9 for the future. And that's why it was just so I don't know. It's so weird to me. I thought it was very mismanaged and mishandled. And same thing for the Giants. Like, look, Malik Neighbors, great. But like this year, where did it get you? Nowhere. Like,
Honestly,
nowhere.
I don't know if let me throw this tankathon screen back on. I mean, if you're the Giants at 4, you're not going to trade up for Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. You're not going to have a quarterback. So you need to have some sort of reach to acquire a quarterback. And if you're picking between going to 2 bad teams, one being the Giants, you're probably going to pick to go to the Giants instead of the other team because you've got a really good option at wide receiver, that being Malik Neighbors. So it was for now and it was for later. I think that Malik Neighbors was a slam dunk draft pick for them, and I don't think that they'd ever go back and select anyone else, maybe besides a quarterback. But
let me pitch this to you, Karl.
Okay.
Right now with the situation on the Vikings, there's this talk and thought process of, okay, on one hand, you have Sam Darnold, who you would need to pay. On the other hand, you have J.J. McCarthy, which I know you love, Michigan, whatever, but try and be unbiased here. Try and take that Michigan love out of it. They still They moved up in the draft to draft him? Kevin O'Connell
ever so slightly.
Kevin O'Connell said he's confident that he's going to be a franchise quarterback, this and that. But Sam Darnold's like 26, 27 years old. And he's playing great. So like, why? So you're going to sacrifice great for a guy that can potentially be great? Now I understand longevity and everything like that, but it's like, do you go with a hot hand that's showing you evidence that he can have success with you, or do you go with the unknown? And so it's like, somebody's like, well, if you trade JJ McCarthy away, you could get more pieces for Sam Darnold.
But can you afford Sam Darnold? Has Sam Darnold outpriced himself?
Because you're
in the
paying
sense that
Justin Jefferson. That's exactly where I was going, because you're paying Justin Jefferson.
Well,
so
no,
you're going
Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson could be why Sam Darnold is playing as well as he is. The fact of the matter is,
one of the very few.
Opportunity cost. Do you take Sam Darnold and letting, I don't know, some sort of star? I'm not familiar enough with the Vikings to ask this question perfectly, but let's say it means you have to get rid of a strong piece of your defense, or quite frankly, do you go with the more risky option and downgrade at quarterback? The thing that is very much in the camp of trading J.J. McCarthy right now, and it's going to suck because you told me to put the Michigan bias aside, and I'm telling you I'm putting the Michigan bias aside. J.J. McCarthy is the best quarterback available if he was to be added to this draft. He's better than Shedeur Sanders. He's better than Cam Ward by a mile. So he's the best option that could be available for a team that needs a quarterback towards the top of the draft. Are you trading J.J. McCarthy away for a top 5 pick? No, that's not fucking happening. It's not possible. But J.J. McCarthy's trade value could never be higher. And it's weird to say that as he's coming off of an ACL injury, but maybe the Vikings would not want to deal with that, and they were in win now mode.
Yeah, but then you might be crippled financially in a way.
Well,
because like
Ryan Pace lives vicariously through the Vikings. go get your chip now and ruin your team. That's fine
Okay,
by me as a Bears
listen,
fan. That's
you
fine
want the
by
window
me.
to be open for the next 2 years? Sign Sam Darnold. Write it out for the next 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on what your philosophy is. But if you're looking at more of a long-term sustained success, then no, you're going to have to go with the cheaper quarterback that still has that uptime. Yeah, exactly. No way he's trading him, but like, but if you can, if the offer's there, it's right. But like I said, the finances come into play. The finances definitely come into play. Um, it's interesting with the Cincinnati Bengals. You got Joe Burrow. You got Jamar Chase. Great. What's failing them right now?
Their defense is just as bad as it's ever been.
Because they can't afford it, man. There's got to be some balance.
There's got
Brady
to be
put
like I don't know if you're familiar enough with Madden or Madden Ultimate Team. I remember trying to make a Bears theme team. If you did a Bengals theme team with the current players, you've got like the best safety pairing in the NFL that has walked through those doors. That you're right in that sense. Like they have let some good players walk because they couldn't afford them.
Yeah, and I mean it's unfortunate, but that's the situation you're in. That's why like Tom Brady was so great, man, because he would take all these contract cuts. Hell, go out there and get the best kicker out there. Pay your kicker top money, because as a quarterback, I'm going to take a pay cut because I understand balance and I understand team games. Exactly, T. Higgins is going to be a free agent too, but that's the thing, Chad. Is I think Joe Burrow is good enough to where he could still have success without Jamar Chase there. Now, I'm not, that's nothing against Jamar Chase. He's a great quarterback. Like we said, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, I think those might be the two guys out there right now that are truly different than anybody else. I did not think that a wide receiver can put something so shit, dude. I might be able to throw for like a couple thousand yards on the fucking Vikings.
How tall are you?
5'8". Just chuck it up.
Oh, I don't know if you can hit the 1K mark,
It's a,
Paulie. I don't know.
it's a joke. Of course, I could have put that. I'm just crediting, and it goes
Hey,
against everything that
how
I preach, against everything
don't you type for a living? You could definitely stand in the shotgun and do the push pass, right? Receive the shotgun snap and just push it to the guy doing like an end around. Essentially, you could get 1,000 yards that way, maybe.
I just know if I threw the ball to Justin Jefferson, he would do it, man. He would do it. But that's such an anomaly. Like you said, it's really those two guys, and then like everybody else, because typically it's the other way around. The quarterback makes these. So yeah, Sam Darnold's in a great situation, but it's working. Are you willing to now go through rookie slumps, bad rookie quarterback decisions, to have this guy sit here and learn? But like they've shown you they can have. Look at what they're doing, man. CJ2K, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm 100% familiar with the Vikings situation to a detailed extent. I really haven't gone into my off-season stuff yet because there's still one game left to play. If they do, that's great, but like I do know Justin Jefferson is gonna get paid. I do know that they got guys that are gonna want money and want to get
You
paid.
mean Jamar Chase? But yes.
No, I'm Justin Jefferson,
Ju-
Vikings.
oh, I'm
80 million
sorry.
in cap space. Yeah, so like at the end
Justin
of
Jefferson has already been paid. He's under contract. He's the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, to my understanding.
okay, so if you're going to pay Sam Darnold, that 80 million becomes what, 30 million,
Probably be
right?
50
Like
million. He'd probably get at least $30 million. I
exactly.
don't know what
Right.
that cap
Well,
hit looks like.
so
All
now
that
30
bullshit.
million left in cap space.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is like
they'd have
there
50
needs
million left. Yeah.
a lot of people ignore the financial game, and on the behind all the on the field stuff, the financials dictate a ton. And like we go back to talking about Mark Trestman, it wasn't just that the defense was bad that year. It was the fact that they like signed Pernell McPhee and they signed Lamar Houston, the guy and tears his ACL.
I think you're right. Yeah.
They signed those guys to big deals.
Yeah.
They did nothing. You had money just going down a hole. So like that's part of the reason why, when that happens, you're spending money on the defense, and then the defense is that bad on top of it. That's what digs you in a hole. But like you do have to allocate financials, and you do have to stay balanced because, like I said, look at the Bengals. You could be very offensive heavy.
Paulie, I'm gonna cut you off. We are looking at the
Okay.
Bengals right now. We've got a football game in our hands. The Bengals are currently leading the Steelers by 2 points. There's 15 seconds left. Shotgun snap to Wilson on 4th and 12. Dropped pass. The Bengals have done their part. The Bengals have won the football game. They are going to end the season at 9-8. Now they've got to pray that the Chiefs can defeat the Broncos and that the Dolphins also don't supplant them.
Speaking of the Dolphins, you go back even 30 years to a guy like Dan Marino, who threw for 5,000 yards, and at a time when people were not throwing for 5,000 yards. How many Super Bowl rings does he have?
Hate that comment from you. I mean, it's true.
But it's true.
He also beat the best defense ever in the 85 Bears.
I'm not saying he's not a great
undefeated.
quarterback. That's a different conversation.
Victim of circumstance, my friend.
But that circumstance is failure at the top, failure to create a team. Yeah, for sure. Like he doesn't have to throw for 5,000 yards. Like if your defense was a little better, but you had one less wide receiver, these things matter, man. They really matter. That's why I don't like the Rome move either. Because at the end of the day, if Caleb Williams is good, he's on the same timeline as Rome. If Caleb Williams is good and he makes Rome good, then what? In 4 years and 5 years, you have to pay both of them? No, you're gonna get rid of Rome. Like
I disagree with that. Because DJ Moore's contract expires at the same time that Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams' rookie deals expire. So ideally, what you'd have is Rome Odunze, aka hopefully Jamar Chase, is linked with your franchise quarterback for the rest of their careers, and you let DJ Moore walk or retire.
But that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so you sign Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, and you're the Bengals at 9-8.
No, you know what I'm trying to say.
I do know what you're trying to say.
You'd be able to maneuver it a lot better, hopefully. I don't know about unorthodox, but a lot of teams have won the Super Bowl with a good quarterback and a good wide receiver that are on, wealthy contracts.
Meanwhile,
maybe I'll have to do some research.
Patrick Mahomes trades away Tyreek Hill and does it with Valdez-Scantling Jr. It's the quarterback. And I think there's enough here, talent-wise, like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen should have been enough to let Caleb grow. And yeah, we saw a lot of good things out of Caleb, but I think there's ways you could do this. Yeah, they are. But I think there's ways you could do this to where that's unnecessary. I think we would have benefited the impact this year as far as team wins goes.
Right, but we're talking about a general manager who's trying to do things the correct way. The old Bears would have never drafted a good wide receiver when they had just traded for one. And I honestly, genuinely think that this wide receiver room next year without Rome Odunze just looks grim. Or you piss away your best draft pick on another wide receiver, like a Teratoa, I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but McDonald's, a.k.a. McMillan. Yeah. Luther Burden's an okay player. He'll be fine. But there's no Rome Odunze in this draft. So you'd really be screwed. And I remember hearing about how Jay Cutler at one point didn't have weapons. Once he got weapons, that offense was high-flying, but then we're just going in this vicious circle of, okay, you're injecting money into a bad old defense, yada, yada, yada. So the point is well understood.
J2K's comment real quick. Mahomes has a Hall of Fame tight end.
But that tight end is not nearly making as much money.
Exactly. Go look up how much he's getting paid. That's a value and a half.
But the point is that even though he doesn't cost as much, he's able to elevate that offense as a whole. So I hear what J2K is saying, right?
But you could now pay Chris Jones and be fine.
Yeah, Chris Jones is probably a very integral part to that defense, obviously.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's an interesting balance, an interesting game, and you have to do it right. And there's a lot of different ways where you can, wind up in a little hole or wind up hurting yourself more than helping yourself. Is Rome a good player? I hope he winds up being a great player. I just don't like the strategy overall. Take the name out of it. And that's why I had this very unpopular opinion. Karl, I said if Marvin Harrison Jr. dropped down to 9 last year, my preferred option would be to trade back. And I'd be happy because you get more of a haul for it.
Yeah.
That's where I was at, man.
I totally hear you. I guess a good capstone for this is going to be, if you guys are listening post-live, drop a comment down below letting us know the answer to this question, or definitely if you're in the live channel right now, please answer. There's a list of players on the screen. I'll try and maximize it best I can, of a mock draft. Top 10 players that Tankathon is projecting that will go in the top 10. If you're a Bears fan, regardless of where we draft, what player do you think you want the Bears to draft the most? Whether I wouldn't accept like a Travis Hunter because he's going to go well before they have the chance. But try and have it be somewhat reasonable, okay? If there's one player that you could have on the Bears with a draft pick that they're going to acquire for such a shitty season, who would that be? Obviously, my answer, Mason Graham.
Carl, just a quick question before, and I know we got to end this and get out of here. I don't
Sure.
watch much college ball, and like when I do, it's during the off season just for the draft studies and whatever.
Okay.
That cornerback / wide receiver, and I've heard this
Travis
talked about
Hunter.
man. So like I haven't watched enough of him. Carl, explain this to me. Like, is he really all that good on both sides of the ball? Does he get?
He's special, and what I think is going to happen, I don't know who's going to draft him. Obviously, this is mocking the Patriots, but the Patriots are going to get the first overall pick. The Travis Hunter hype is very real. When you watch him move, whether that's him catching a football or I guess I also catching a football but intercepting one, he moves differently. He is a special athlete. He is fantastic, and he's probably deserving of going first overall in a weaker draft class like this. But what's probably going to end up happening with Travis Hunter is that he will be drafted as a cornerback. He will be asked to shut down the best wide receiver on the football field, like a Darrelle Revis, and say, okay, it's 10 versus 10 now. But the X factor with Travis Hunter is that you could include him. A lot of people talked about Velus Jones like this last year, right? Let's just give him 3 to 5 touches a game, get the ball in his hands, and see what can happen, right? Travis Hunter is the definition of that. He is truly special. He'd be able to house a ball from anywhere on the field, in my opinion. And he also is the best punt returner. I don't think that he'll ever reach like a Devin Hester punt return level, but he's going to return punts in the NFL, and that's going to be must-see TV. So, in short, yes, the hype is real about Travis Hunter, but he will not be a full-time wide receiver and cornerback. There's no way that the NFL will allow him to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I look at what the Vikings are doing with Brian Flores. He's got these guys playing all over, man. He's got guys from the secondary that are like capable of lining up and getting a sack.
Yeah, Joshua Meticulous, a.k.a. Josh Metellus, the University of Michigan legend. He is a step above Kyler Gordon as far as a Swiss Army knife.
Was he
This guy will line up. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Metellus did go to the University of Michigan, and he is a fantastic player in the sense that he has had snaps at almost every fucking position on the football field. Harrison Smith plays 100% of the snaps at his position, but outside of that, Joshua Metellus has been a nickel defender, an outside cornerback, a safety, a linebacker. It's just nuts.
Yeah, in this league, man, these guys dive in and try and master their craft at a single position. And like you even saw with Devin Hester, the second he had to be a wide receiver, guess what? Now he's a worse returner too.
Hey, my favorite thing though with Devin Hester was he was drafted as a cornerback, and in the game on Monday Night Football against the Rams, where he had 2 kickoff return touchdowns, there's a clip of him getting his ass burnt by Torrey Holt in defending. So the switch to wide receiver was always going to happen for him, and that was the correct move. And he was a good receiver, man. He had a lot of highlights.
Yeah, but you know mainly why it had to happen?
Money. You can't pay a cornerback.
A financial game. You're not gonna pay as much for a guy who's just doing kick returns. Kid, you got to go out there and produce more often. And you took away what was special for him, but you allowed him to make more money. So, like I said, that it's always involved with that. So yeah, dude, thank you for having me on with you tonight. I can't believe we went like 2 hours very seamlessly.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
a blast,
spur of the
dude.
moment. I think I asked you to come onto the show like 3 hours ago at this point. Like it has not been premeditated whatsoever. Very spur of the moment, but
My
It's
effort was going
starting
to
to
be
become-
put into finding a perfect raccoon pelt in Red Dead Redemption 2 tonight. So that's what I sacrificed. That's why I asked you before the show. Like, you play. I was going to ask you for a tip or two.
So give me the nuts and bolts of that. So is that like a like when you like kill someone, it's like RNG, you get a drop, and you're looking for a raccoon pelt that way?
Oh no! So it's like you're walking around. There's animals around you, and when you point your gun at the animal, if you've killed it before, whatever, it gives you a rating: 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. If it's got a 3-star rating, not only do you have to shoot it with the right weapon, like I can't shotgun the fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like that'll make it drop to 1 star. But it's like if you got a 3-star deer, boom, you pop it in the head with a sniper rifle. Then you go and you can skin it, and you have a 3-star leather pelt from it. And then you need those things for upgrades. So it's like you gotta find the raccoon first, and then I gotta kill it the right way. It takes a lot of effort, but I'm willing to give all that up to spend some time with my buddy Karl here. Which
I really appreciate that, Paulie, and I enjoy.
I appreciate you, man.
Time on the screen with you. It's always a blast. I'm going to put a name on the screen. This was a new subscriber to the Thy and Spy podcast. I really appreciate it, but I'm hoping to see if you can pronounce that last name for me, because I'm struggling with that. Lujak?
Luchak or Wuchak. Depends
Luchak.
if the L's got crossed through it, it's a Wuchak, but can you put Dave I just got new glasses. And the only one to notice was my daughter. My 2-year-old was like, Dada, new glasses? And I was like, holy shit, she noticed. I have 2 pairs, David. I'll wear the other ones. I haven't heard them call. Dude, these are fucking.
You should make
These are Adidas, dude. These are Adidas brand. These were the ones.
Are they called the Dahmers? The Adidas Dahmers? No, you should make a parody.
Now that he said it, I see it, I'm just like, fuck.
You should make a parody of the Kevin Gates' song where he talks about having 2 phones. You should make something for 2 glasses. Something about I got 2 pairs. That would be really funny.
Karl, you should have heard like ESPN 1000 takes holiday parody songs.
Yeah.
Do Ryan Poles the Christmas donkey.
That's awesome.
I don't believe in an offensive line. I'm the Christmas donkey. I drafted Amagaji too high. Christmas donkey. I forgot what the rest of it was, but I had a couple more lines in there. So
let me set you up for this. Chad's saying that it could be a busy Monday. You might want to think about dedicating some time on Monday to doing a live show. I know you already do, but like an extended period, because there's going to be a lot of moves.
It's all on David. Depends if David's got the time, but yeah, it is. But it should be a busy Monday for sure. I mean, we got to fucking clean this thing up, man. There's a lot to clean up here, and like I said, David's worst comment is we might suck for the next couple of years here. We got to get this thing right so we don't. So he's wrong. So I don't have to pull that clip in like 2 years and cry, like I don't want this thing to suck. Not with the number 1 overall QB. God, we have 2 number 1 picks back to back. The fuck are we doing?
I don't like that comment from you because we earned one of them and then we finagled for the other one, right? We didn't earn Caleb Williams because of poor play. Technically we did, but we earned it because of a trade, not because of play.
Yeah, so we got lucky. 4 wins?
I'd rather be lucky than good.
What would have happened if
Sounds like we are. It sounds like we are lucky and not good.
Yeah, we gotta get this thing right, respectfully.
Let's get some Pro Bowl talent with a top 10 pick, aka Mason Graham. And then segue as well, Tuesday, hopefully we're doing the NFL ski show on BearskiFilm. General NFL talk. Obviously, we'll be able to kind of capstone everything that happened on Black Monday, talk about not just the Bears, but everything else NFL. And the playoff picture will be finalized. There's no Monday game. Tomorrow's it. There's going to be some good games, and I'm so excited to watch that Lions-Vikings game. That's going to be I told my girlfriend, again, she's a Vikings fan, I predicted that the Sunday night game between the Lions and Vikings will end 43-42, and the winner will win on a 2-point conversion because 6 touchdowns is 42 points. But I don't know who that's going to be, genuinely. It could be either of those teams. It's going to be a fantastic
That's a hell of a
game.
prediction.
It's going to be a fantastic football game, dude. I'm so guaranteeing that.
And it's sad that we have to watch other teams to get some fantastic football in our lives. Let this be over. Twist the knife. Just stab me a couple more times real quick. 3 p.m. Sunday can't come fast enough.
The way you're talking about it, if that's what's going to happen, I want the Bears to rest Caleb Williams full stop because I do not want any twisting of anything. I just want the game to end and that be it. So
for real. Here's my Jeffrey Dahmer look. Yes. that is what I want.
You're gonna have to get a wig and some really tight fitting pants. We're gonna have to get that sorted out, man.
What? I can't. Just because I don't have hair doesn't mean I can't be.
If you call me prejudiced for that, I'm gonna be really upset with you.
Dude, you know what though?
Oh
That's
boy.
don't get me in on that. How about this, Carl? Last name discrimination. What do you know about it? What's I don't know what your last name is, but dude, my whole life I watched the A's, the B's, the C's all line up, and my last name starts with a W. Always in the back of the room.
I start with an S, so I kind of understand what you're saying. I thought you were gonna make a Polish comment about the ski, but
Well, no, but they all start with like Z's and W's and V's. Like we're all skis and we're all grouped together in the back. The fucking teachers, all they know is alphabetical order, and they're not actual teachers. And yeah, dude.
ooh, that sounds like a whole different tangent. I'm not sure I'm willing to
yeah.
delve into just yet.
After
All I
end
can
the
tell
show, I'll
you,
let you know.
all I can tell you, Paul, is that a Lions fan called me the R word last Thursday or this past Thursday because I humbly thought that Josh Allen was the MVP over Lamar Jackson. But
Which he is.
I mean, my case in point on that will very quite simply be look at the rosters. Ravens, 9 Pro Bowlers, Bills, 2, and you've got
Look at the expectations. Ravens, win or lose. Bills, rebuilding year.
right. They sold off half their team. They got rid of their center. They
For
traded
real.
another offensive lineman to the Bears, who we won't name that name. I digress.
Ryan
I
Bates.
think I think it's time to cut the cord on this one, guys. If you enjoyed, like I said,
Appreciate everybody.
simulcasting to 3 channels. If you're not subscribed to either of them, please consider. Leave a like. Leave a comment. Like I said earlier, as a Bears fan, who do you want the Chicago Bears to draft? We'll be able to discuss that maybe next week, moving into more of the off-season centered things. We're going to have hopefully a much clearer picture by this time next week. I don't know if the Bears will have a new head coach, but probably in 2 weeks you'll be able to tell who the head coach, general manager are. I'm pretty sure. Maybe at the end of the Super Bowl. I'm not sure. That's like a month away. It's going to be an exciting time for content creators, in my opinion. Bears will still be the talk of the town with a really high draft pick. Again,
Can I get petty before you end it?
Go for it.
An exciting time for content creators. This is where you see some of these content creators come out of the woodwork. And for some content creators, the off season is their time to shine. But during the regular season, they seem to go very quiet because they're wrong and they look stupid sometimes. And that's one thing I'm not excited about is for some of these hype guys and whatnot to kind of come out of the woodwork and do their thing. But yeah, it's their time to shine. Whereas like my channel will go, dude, thank God for the NFL ski show. Sorry. Otherwise we'd be down for like the next month. We're just like, well, what do you want to talk about? The same thing over and over. So like, and we're not going to sit there and just do weekly shows just for the monetization and this and that. No, we'll do it once. We'll say it once. If there's nothing else, we're not just going to kick a dead horse.
I don't know. I don't know if I should be putting this out on the air in the public sense, but I really think that some sort of like flashback content to like the early to middle 2010s, as far back as the NFL will allow us to view that content, we got to find a way to revive that because that would be a lot of fucking fun. I hear guys all the time talk about how, like I heard at the start of this year, some guy was like, I just got done watching the entire 2013 season. And like you, me, and Dave did a show, or you popped in after we finished the NFL ski show, and I just started watching that Bears-Packers game, and I was getting animated to it. Like, it's fun stuff. So maybe that's something, if you guys are interested, let us know in the comments. I think we'd have to get really creative with it somehow, but it'd be a lot of fun to kind of dissect that because a lot of Bears fans, we've talked about it the whole time, right? This is the worst time that we've seen for the Bears in a long time, right? But you have no idea who the original Chris Williams was. I had to watch Gabe Karimi. Maybe we got to revive some old content.
I was going to send you, I'm going to send you some jerseys here. I would think Gabe Karimi was one of the ones I thought about.
Son of a bitch. No. I will take only one Josh Blackwell jersey. That is it. Fuck, I don't have the audio clip of me telling everyone what I am regarding
guys. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all you.
Yeah, it has been a blast. We really appreciate it, guys. Like I said, consider subscribing if you're not already. Leave a like rating, and until next time, guys, bear down.